why wouldn't he, if they were really declassified, why wouldn't he just tell the National Archives, hey, these documents were already declassified? Why did he lie about giving all the documents back?
My claim is they've never found a human being guilty of 34 different charges, but every one of them was a different crime. This is bullshit.
Again, you have no way to substantiate that. Like,
Yeah, it's
MC right now.
Till now, no one's defined what the crime is. There's 3 different crimes that are now the jury, I guess, was unanimously agreed upon that one of these crimes happened, but we don't.
The fact of the matter is the law allows any crime to be used to escalate this to a Class C felony in New York. They used another law to do so. I don't think that you're going to be able to find fault in the theory there. Again, they don't need to show that Trump committed the crime, only that he made the falsified, only that he falsified the records with intent to commit a crime.
How did they show that there was an intent to them?
So today is 6/19. It's very funny. The date is a pretty good day. It's Juneteenth, if you guys don't know. And as we see, as we're getting closer to the debate that will be happening in 8 days, we see a lot of contempt and a lot of feelings among Americans that the 2 candidates that we have could best be described, if you are on either side, as a senile old man or a felon that wants to control America illegally. And when it comes down to it, we've seen a new influence with the new felony convictions. And what we're here to talk about today is, should Donald Trump have any change in his appearance or his optical look for being president with his criminal history and his felony indictments as we've seen? I hope that we have some opening statements. Nonfon, I'm going to throw it to you. In your opinion about this.
Yeah, my opinion about this, I would fall basically on how you characterized a lot of Biden supporters. I think Trump, bottom line, is someone who wants to destroy a lot of our institutions. I think he said as such. I think he has almost certainly committed the crimes that he's been accused of committing. I think whether or not these convictions are politically motivated is a different question from whether or not he's being treated like fairly, or whether or not he actually did commit the crimes he's been accused of. I think Biden is better on domestic policy. I think Biden's better on foreign policy. I think Biden's been a pretty good steward of the economy. I don't know what else to say. Someone else can pick up.
Manar, what's your opinion on Donald Trump as we're going into this election? And do you have a different opinion on him because of the felony convictions? And then what's your general view of the felony conviction as well?
So I'll mention a couple of things. Trump is the first president to be criminally indicted and be found actually guilty of the crime that he was indicted for. This is setting a precedent in history in America that's never been said before. It never actually changed my opinion on Trump in any way. It changed my opinion on the criminal justice system, though, because it seemed like they had to push a lot of holes to push these charges in. For example, 34 guilty charges, they're basically different check stubs. Once you find a crime on one of these check stubs, why do you have to make it 34 different guilty crimes? Next, for example, they forced this in New York. I get it, the crime happened in New York, but the actual defense tried to push the jurisdiction away. They understood the law in New York was very tough for this crime, and they could be found guilty using 175.2 or 0.12 legal New York penal code. That's why they tried to push this away. The judge wouldn't allow them to change jurisdiction. And so what happened was that this was a crime that should have been a misdemeanor at best if he actually was found to be falsifying documents. But the judge was able to switch this into a criminal felony charge by adding that this falsification, by at least simulating that the prosecution tried to argue that this actual offense, this fraudulent charge, these falsification of documents happened to further a crime, which is what pushed it to a felony level. Till now, no one's defined what the crime is. There's 3 different crimes that are now the jury, I guess, was unanimously agreed upon that one of these crimes happened, but we don't know which crime happened. And I guess the judge was fine with not actually having the jurors align which crime that the falsification of documents furthered. He just wanted these jurors to actually find him criminal, like falsifying documents and then in furthering of a crime, but he didn't care which crime he wanted to find them, which I believe that actually creates a hole in that case. For example, jury instruction could be actually a mistrial. It could be a grounds for appeal. And so that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking what happened in this case actually really changed my trust in the judicial system, not really necessarily Trump, more of how hard this was switched, changed apart, how hard, for example, to push 34 guilty charges on just the pay stubs instead of just making it one felony charge. This is what made me very scared. And if the president is getting attacked and is getting and these attacks are landing on the
It's
president, imagine what they can do to
Parazoecial,
a
I
normal
think.
human being.
That's their name.
Okay, and then opening statement from Zoe.
Yeah, I don't know. My only thoughts on this whole trial is that Trump would look much better with like a face tat of some sort. I'm thinking maybe he should get like a teardrop under one eye or the ice cream cone. I think the ice cream cone would make him look really fucking hard. So, yeah, I have been really checked into politics since 2016. And then I spent 8 years following this
private.
shit like my life depended on it, because in some ways it actually did depend on it. So what I've noticed this year is that nobody fucking cares anymore. I haven't seen a single Donald Trump bumper sticker in my town. Haven't seen a single Biden Harris sign on any lawn. People are pretty checked out as far as this goes. I think that they're both senile, aging, racist old fuckers, and I don't think anybody should give them their support. I also don't think that any of the third-party candidates are interesting or fun, or it's just the most boring election cycle I've ever seen. It is kind of fun to listen to RFK stammer about how Wi-Fi gives you the gaze, but other than that, I kind of feeling like nobody really cares, and that's going to be a problem come November.
Okay. And then I do want to touch on something. Manar, you did say that you think that the jury instructions could lead to a appeal. What do you think was wrong about the jury instructions that were given?
Yeah, for example, the juries were instructed in a way that was never instructed before. It seems to me that this is the first time the judge actually instructed this jury in this way. What he did was he told them that you don't have to unanimously agree on the crime. You just have to find them guilty of a crime that was connected to this fraudulent tax, to this fraudulent record. So if you agree he made a fraudulent record, I don't care what crime he did past that. It could be the tax evasions. It could be he tried to make tax evasions. It could be that he conspired, according to penal New York Code law code 175.10, that he conspired, or 0.12, I forget which one, that he conspired to commit an election fraud or to stop a political opposition from getting into election or to the office and get elected, which is not true. You cannot actually find that crime anywhere. And then the third crime was that he falsified the FICA Act, that he falsified basically a falsification of records act. So the jury could have found him guilty on any of these three charges, as long as they thought he was guilty, that he fraudulently made the transactions. They can find him guilty on any of these three charges. Doesn't matter. The judge didn't even actually want to know which charges they actually found him guilty of. He just wanted to say, hey, do you guys believe that he made these tax evasions, or he made these records, falsified them, so he can commit one of these crimes? These jurors accepted that, and they were unanimous, but actually unanimous on the three charges. Imagine a jury saying, yes, you're right, we all accept that he falsified these documents to commit these crimes, but they actually did not agree on what the crimes were that were committed. That's where it's the actual jury instructions is going to be questioned, I believe, and could be grounds for appeal.
Isn't it the prosecution's job to determine what crime is being charged? I'd like to see a source on that. I find that really hard to believe, that the judge just said, find him guilty of any crime. That doesn't make any sense. It sounds like it was intentionally misread by somebody who was pushing an agenda.
Well,
Okay,
I think the concern is in order for it to be felony, it has to be falsifying business records to cover up another crime, right? So I think what the judge basically said is it doesn't matter what crime he was trying to cover up exactly. As long as he was falsifying these business records to cover up a crime, you don't actually have to agree on what crime he was covering up.
He's charged with. Right.
Well,
exactly.
Yeah.
The crime that he's charged with is covering up a crime. It doesn't matter what he was covering.
I know, but right now the defense doesn't even know what crime he was charged up of covering. Every different news source will give you something else. One will tell you tax evasion, one will tell you conspiring against election, one will tell you FICA Act law.
Yeah, except all of those, he was charged with covering up all of those, though. That's why they're all giving.
No, that's not true.
Well, as long as he was covering up a crime, I don't think the way the law is written, I don't think it matters which crime he was trying to cover up. The only point is he he tried to cover up a crime by falsifying business records. I don't think it matters which crime he was trying to cover up.
You're right. According to what the judge was saying, I was reading the actual record of him instructing the jurors. He said the actual crime, you don't have to prove that it was actually committed. You just have to prove that there was a crime that was being seeked. So you're right by that. But till now, we don't know what they actually believe the crime to be. Like, they don't even, the jurors don't agree with one another on what the crime that was like the crime that this fraudulent record happened. They still don't agree with one another on what crime which was. So this is the problem.
I guess I don't see why that matters. Like, the way the law is written.
Charges that were filed by the DA. Have you read those charges that were filed by the DA? Have you read them?
It's going to matter. For example, when the appeal shows up, they're going to try to say that he did not destroy.
Specifically, Manar, please. The charges that were filed by the DA specifically say that he was attempting to cover up multiple crimes. They're not trying to prove that any of those crimes happened. They're trying to prove that he was trying to cover up different types of financial crime.
But how do you cover up different kinds of crimes if you cannot even prove that they happened? How can you prove that he was covering them up if you can't even prove that they happened?
All the jurors agreed that he was trying to cover up a crime. They just might not all agree on what crime he was trying to cover up. But the way the law is written, all that matters is that they agree he was trying to cover up a crime.
I know. So what the appeal is going to do is they're going to come in and say, hey, we don't actually know what crime these jurors convicted them of committing post the falsification of records. So we're going to try to argue against this crime. When they argue against this crime, the jurors are going to switch their stance and say, no, it was this crime that the tax evasions that we actually wanted to get him on. This is why this is actually going to create a mistrial. I've looked at a lot of lawyer opinions. This is an instruction to the jury that's not regular. Usually, you're right. You don't have to you don't have to prove that the crime happened, but you have to at least acknowledge that the crime happened. You have to say what crime you're unanimously agreeing upon, and that's the thing that's missing from this case. They actually never agreed unanimously on the crime.
Oh, I do have to say, one of the people who was originally supposed to be here did just text me that they could join if we're all okay with that. They are against you, Manar, and they say they've read up on this a lot though.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
4v1.
If it helps though, Manar, I actually want to jump in and be an ally here. It's not gonna fucking matter. He's still gonna run for president. None of his base are gonna care that he was charged with this shit. This is a circus. This is showmanship, and I agree. All it does is set a silly precedent for the Republicans and the Democrats to be attacking each other with the legal system until the day we all die.
I appreciate you. This brings me to another point that Nonfon brought, that this is not actually politically charged. How can you actually claim that this is not a politically charged campaign? The 34 guilty charges, there could have been one. He made them 34 just so he can change the perception of the public. This is a Democrat judge that he's been giving donations, and his daughter's been giving donations to the Democratic side for a while. He ran on putting Trump into jail. I mean, this is totally politically...
That's not what, in my opening statement, I said the question of whether these charges are politically motivated is a bit different than whether he's being treated unfairly. And I think you've proven this yourself with the fact that, you've talked about Trump does have access to the appeals process. He can appeal if feel like he's being treated unfairly. And if he is being treated unfairly, theoretically, the appeals court is going to look at that, agree with him, and say, okay, we'll give you another trial at a higher level. I specifically said whether or not it's politically motivated is just a different question from whether or not it's it's unfair.
I'm happy to welcome our newest guest, if anybody else wants to, and catch them up on what's going on.
Hey, what's up?
Do you want to give us a quick... The question that I asked everyone at the beginning was, what's your view on the Donald Trump indictments? Do you think that it was politically motivated? Do you not? Do you think this changes... Do you think it should change the general's opinion on Trump now that he is a felon and that this crime may or may not could have been committed, and just generally, yeah?
Sure. So, I'm not a huge fan of Trump. I'm sort of politically agnostic on the issue as to whether or not this affects whether somebody should vote for him. But it seems to me that there is a solid legal basis for the charges that were levied against him. From what we hear of the facts, it seems plausible that a jury could have come back with a conviction. I've done some research on this using Lexis. I'm a law student here in the United States, just finished my first year. So, I've got some experience doing this kind of research that makes me nowhere near an expert by any means. And I, of course, have to disclose the fact that I'm not an attorney in any state in the United States. But I have done research on this, and I'm interested in the topic. I think that, again, there seems to be a solid legal theory, and there are a lot of myths going around about the nature of this trial and the things that have been disclosed. So,
Okay, can you
So-
actually deal? Can you actually deal with my position here that there is going to be grounds for an appeal here? It seems like the charges are not actually clear. The actual crime that was being convicted upon, the post falsification of records, the
Sure.
crime that they actually worked on concealing, doesn't actually seem to be, obvious at all. I don't think there's actually unanimity between jurors that that crime actually was committed. So my understanding is the instructions of the jury is actually grounds for appeal here.
So to start off, 175.10, which is the New York penal law that's used to charge in this case, felony, we understand that it requires that there needs to be an underlying crime, but I'm going to read some language directly from the statute, if that's all right. So it escalates to a felony when the crime is committed with intent to defraud or intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. So the prosecutor doesn't actually have to show that another crime was committed. The prosecutor only has to show that there was intent to commit another crime through the falsification of business records. In this case, we have a couple of viable candidates, including from the statement of facts. I want to be able to pull this up. Sorry, I don't have this directly in front of me. But the statement of facts outlines an election crime, which they allege was committed by Attorney A, which I believe is Michael Cohen, that he pled guilty to, and I believe is probably the basis in this case for what started their prosecution. Hold on, I'm just trying to pull up the statement of
David,
facts
are you
that
free
I
right
have
now?
and the
David, if you're
indictment.
free, you might be able to join. Just because Manar's kind of getting
Yeah,
dogpiled right now,
so if I
consistent
can
with the pro
find
Biden people here.
where a-
Yeah, but they have to infer without a reasonable doubt that the defendant had the intent required for the commission of this crime. They have to
We infer
actually
intent all the time, though.
Sorry?
We infer intent all the time, though. This is
Yeah.
common practice.
Can you give an example? Because I can think of like 6 where you would just assume that there was an intent.
Sure. So let's take theft crime, for instance. Theft, it comes in various different shapes and flavors, but for simplicity, we'll talk about larceny, which has the specific intent to permanently deprive a person of an object that is their possession as one of the elements. When you take something without permission and you walk away
David,
with
check your
it,
Discord
we're
DMs.
generally going to ask the jury to infer that you had the intent to permanently deprive the person of that object. In this case, based on the testimony that they received from the people that they had present there at trial, they're asking the jury to make an inference of Trump's intent to commit a crime with this information. So these kinds of lines are drawn all the time.
So because he actually basically signed the NDA and paid the person that signed the NDA, that's actually not a crime. There's no intent to commit a crime there. So I'm not understanding how the jury was able to actually
I can
look
explain
for a
that to
reason.
you.
Can I
can
finish,
explain
please?
that to you right now. Yeah,
Sorry?
absolutely.
Right? Like,
Absolutely.
I'm making a point
Well,
here.
David,
the
just check
NDA
your
is not a
DM so you can
crime
join the
to
server.
pay
You might be
somebody
able
for
to join
an
this
NDA.
one
So
if you
how can
want
you
to.
say that he
I don't know if
actually
you
paid
can,
and
but
falsified these records in order to commit the crime? So is the actual falsification, is that the crime? And how can you infer from that an actual intent?
I can answer that because the crime isn't having someone the crime isn't having someone sign an NDA. The crime is using campaign finances to pay someone not to do something.
That's not what happened
That's
here.
the crime.
No, that's not what happened
Except
here.
that's okay. Does anybody want to jump in here?
Yeah,
Because
only the first 3 payments
the
were
entire thing
from...
is a campaign finance. It's a campaign
No,
finance
it's not,
trial.
no.
Like that is the charge is about him misusing
Nope.
his funds.
No, this is
Really?
another proof that you actually are misinformed on this because of the information that they keep pushing in the media. Only 3 of these charges went from another account other than his personal account. And it
So
was the
3
first
of
3
those
charges
charges.
only.
Yeah, except that's still money. Is that not money? Just wait. So the first 3 times I pay for something, I'm not giving real money? That's
But
amazing.
it's not an
I can buy
actual
drugs and
crime.
it won't be a crime the first 3 times? Wow. That's
It's not
dope.
a crime.
Who
It's
knew?
not a crime to pay somebody from your personal account.
Well,
Count
the
Tell them
issue
to
isn't that he
Now
paid.
you're
I don't even think the hush
raising
money
now.
payments themselves are illegal. It's the fact that he intentionally tried to cover them up by falsifying his business
that's not-
records.
Allow me to read from
Okay,
paragraph
that's actually not
3 of the
illegal,
statement
though.
of facts. Can I read from paragraph 3 of the statement of facts that the company does?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Okay. Lawyer A, this is Michael Cohen, made the $130,000 payment through a shell corporation he set up and funded at a bank in Manhattan. This payment was illegal, and Lawyer A has since pled guilty to making an illegal campaign contribution and served time in prison. This is in reference to the payments that were made by the Trump organization to Stormy Daniels. This is one of the crimes that is the basis for the 175.10 charge.
Yeah, but that's a misdemeanor. That's not a felony.
No, 175.10 is a Class C felony in New York when, again, it's used to conceal a crime.
Yeah, but that's what I'm telling you. You're
or with
asserting
intent.
and speculating there's a crime being concealed.
Well, no,
No, there is a crime.
it's
There's no
alleged.
crime.
It's alleged in the
NDA,
statement of
signing an
facts.
NDA and paying somebody an NDA is not a crime.
Right. So again, referring back to the statement of facts, Lawyer A made the $130,000 payment through a shell corporation illegally. And again, this is in the statement of facts. He pled guilty to that. They had Cohen testify as to this. And when we talk about what actually needs to be shown in court, again, they don't need to show that Trump committed the crime, only that he made the falsified, only that he falsified the records with intent to commit a crime.
How did they show that there was an intent then? They had to bring up a
Again,
crime.
this can be inferred through the testimony that was gathered in court. And again, the crime here is an illegal campaign contribution made by Lawyer A, as alleged in paragraph 3 of the statement of facts.
Easy. We just have to prove that Cohen is a liar, and we can actually destroy his testimony.
Well,
Yeah,
They're actually-
again,
Go ahead.
a determination of a witness's credibility is to be made by the jury. That's what the jury did. They determined that the witness's testimony was credible and then convicted on that basis. That's the exact role of the fact finder.
Yeah, but the jury did this on a kind of a misconstrued factual base that they could have done it on any of one of these 3 crimes that Cohen gave us the speculation that he actually was intending to do. But if we can actually prove that Cohen actually is
Wait.
the mastermind behind all of this, then this is and he's a liar. Why would the jury actually believe his testimony then anyway? And why would
That's
he's the main person here that got him convicted, that got Trump convicted. So they're gonna attack him.
For
So since that's the natural avenue to take, then you
By the
need
way,
to
let me mention
establish-
this.
You need to
I want to
establish
mention that
motive,
every
and
single
then
one
you
of
need to find
cases of
proof.
Trump have been appealed, and they're actually a lot of these cases have sustained stays, which is insane. They halt, like for example, the Fulton County charge. This is a totally different charge. It's election fraud. He was granted a stay. That means the whole case is halted.
Yep.
And now when the appeal process starts, it's amazing. They don't even have to continue the court procedures anymore because there's so many problems in this case that they actually already started the appeal case. So be careful, guys. I'm just saying that every single case, even
Manar,
when he's looked
he
upon
lost-
as guilty, the appeals are very strong in those cases.
Manar, if
And
he lost
I'm
these
also-
appeals, would that prove that he's guilty to you of any of these things?
Okay, but
If
every
his
other appeal
appeals,
that he's filed has lost.
What?
All of his other appeals, every appeal
That's
that he
not true.
filed for the election fraud. Show me one. Show me one.
The Fulton County election
all
fraud,
of
the appeal actually
everything
was
else
sustained the
has
stay.
fucking been rejected
Well,
over
Manar,
and
but,
over
like-
by every judge.
Bro, do you understand?
in the country.
Enormous understands how big a stay on a court case in Fulton County in election interference. He knows how big that is.
Well, Manar, but I do you actually care whether or not he wins or loses the appeals? If he loses the appeals and the appeals don't side with him, are you going to now think that Trump is guilty on any of the things that he's been charged of?
I'll tell you my criteria. My criteria is if they allow him a Supreme Court appeal and he loses that, then yes. But if they only force him to one appeal, I will not accept that. They need to allow him to appeal minimum.
So, not every appeal is one that you're entitled to actually have.
That's why I
So
don't.
there are appeals by right and appeals by leave. Some appeals you are entitled to be given, but others are, it's a question of whether or not they feel that the case is worth the appeal. And just because we're dealing with a high-profile client doesn't necessarily mean that he's entitled to an appeal. I want to quickly address what you said about a stay. I have most of my experience in the civil arena in terms of dealing with stays. Stays are usually because there's some reason there needs to be a delay. I don't know that it necessarily indicates that there's a substantial amount of merit to the appeals, only that the court thinks that it's possible that there is and that there could be some disastrous result if there is merit to the appeals. Or there's some other reason that they want to put a halt on things. I haven't read the exact reason for the stays here, but to say that it's like,
I'll be honest with you,
crazy big deal, it may be. But I don't know that it's necessarily.
Everyone in this room knows that Trump did not actually falsify this record to destroy Biden's chances of getting elected. He just did it so because, as any famous person would do, he heard that this story was coming out and he wanted to not have his name connected to the story anyway. If there's a possibility they're gonna pay her to say the story, he thought maybe I can pay her to not say the story. And this is actually completely normal. This is normal business. You guys are asserting to this that he is actually doing this so he can actually further his crimes. Anyways, I'll give it to you. Let's say he does actually found guilty and he falsified records, so he can actually so he doesn't get represented and his name is not there at all, which Michael Cohen basically coerced him to do this, to be honest with you. It's his legal representative forced him to do this, really. That was his idea. Anyways, I digress. Let's say he did that. This still, I would not change my actual public perception of Trump, because this is not a big enough crime to hurt him. There's not going to hurt him in any way. It's actually benefiting him in a lot of ways, showing him that he's actually a political, basically prosecuted opponent. And it's actually bolstering him up in polls. It doesn't actually change my mind on Trump in any way, because this is not a serious crime. This is not a serious enough crime for me to actually worry about it in any way. He didn't murder somebody. They didn't find him guilty of change of the nationwide security threats. You guys were making many different claims about Trump. Now your best claim is that he was falsifying records so he can get elected. What a dumb claim!
Still have those claims.
Still doesn't change anything. Let's say he is guilty. I don't care.
Hiding documents in his house so he could flex to fucking
no, I already talked to Nonfon about this. That was completely lie. They put those files that said classified info. No, the yellow and red files in the photo that said classified on them, they actually inserted those into the picture. They never existed with those files.
That's amazing.
Well, he did take the files though. They just replaced the files with placeholder files because they wanted to get the classified files back into the federal government's hand.
Yeah, but they just started assuming that these files are classified, and they started labeling them as classified, but they might not even be classified. You don't know. They might have been declassified.
Documents. He was openly bragging about it. What are you
saying?
No,
according to Trump, he said all these documents were already declassified. Because
if he thought the documents were already declassified, why in the tape did he say I could have declassified it but I didn't? And B, why when the National Archives contacted Trump multiple times asking for the documents back? And in fact, one of the times they contacted him asking for the documents back, he gave some of the documents back but not all of them. Doesn't that why wouldn't he, if they were really declassified, why wouldn't he just tell the National Archives, hey, these documents were already declassified? Why did he lie about giving all the documents back?
No, he can declassify any document.
But I'm starting to feel like
that doesn't answer any of my questions.
Yeah. He must have started the process to declassify. That's why he didn't send them back.
Well, why wouldn't he tell the National Archives that? And why did he apparently lie on the tape when he said I could have declassified these, but I didn't?
I'm not sure about
that. He had to flex. Because he had to flex because he's dope as fuck. That's our president. I'm memeing, obviously, but I do feel like we're ganging up a little bit on Manar here. I feel like we've all got our piece on this.
I like it. I'm used to this. I'm used to being ganged up.
I've switched to full moderating because I'm not gonna even try to get in this because if it gets to 4v1, that's just actually dogpiling. So I'm just gonna chill in the corner and make sure no one screams at the other.
He's just be on my side for once, goddamn.
I tried to get one pro-Trump person in here, but he's not. I don't think he's busy right now or something. But...
Bro.
Well, no, I just think that there's better ground to defend him on. This is not the hill to die on.
That's what I'm saying. Trump. I don't even care. I don't think this is actually first of all, I really do believe he has grounds for appeal. Jury instructions. There's multiple different ways. Jury instructions.
What's wrong with the jury instructions?
The way the actual charges came out in the closing statement.
You missed that part.
Sorry,
you missed the part where you. Our friend here, Enormous Pharmacy, missed the part where you explained the problem with the jury instructions. And while I don't agree with you, I think I understand your argument, which is basically the judge told the jury that they had to find any crime whatsoever that he was guilty of. Whether or not that's
let me
true,
pull up the judge's jury
the crimes that he was telling the jury to determine were the crimes that we thought that he was guilty of doing. And so if he had done any of those, if he had attempted to conceal any of those crimes, then he is guilty of trying to cover up a crime that he did. Whether or not the statute of limitations has passed,
but maybe enormous,
whether or not
maybe
there's some
enormous
kind of legal thing, it's the fact that he was trying to cover up the crime. That's what the judge
maybe
was
enormous
explaining.
to this, but is it can the jury actually pick and choose between 3 different crimes so they can and then still be unanimous on it?
So I'm going to try to break down.
The unanimity doesn't make sense. How can you every one of them pick a different crime that he actually was charged on, but they're unanimous about? I guess it's unanimous about the fraudulent case.
Guilty.
Yeah, I'm going to try to break down what is, I don't think it's a terribly complicated concept, but it's just odd to try to think about things this way if you don't deal with it every day. So every crime is broken up into elements, basically. It's got components and pieces to it. Here, the judge is saying, of course, you have to agree that all of the elements of 175.10 have been met. That the business records were falsified and that they were done so with either the intent to defraud or the intent to aid, commit, or conceal a crime. What the judge has said, as far as I understand from the jury instructions, and you're welcome to find a place in the jury instructions and we can talk about specifics, is that they don't have to agree which crime was aided, concealed, or committed as part of 175.10, but they do need to agree that all of the elements of 175.10 are met. We see this kind of thing in cases where there is a potential for like accomplice liability. Which
so you can expand the actual definition that big with including 3 different crimes. You can actually expand it because I have a part here, the unlawful means part in the instruction jury that I would like to dive into.
In fact, that's the exact section that I figured you were going to bring up. So let's talk about unlawful.
So although you must conclude unanimously that the defendant conspired to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, you need not be unanimous as to what those unlawful means were.
Yes.
How actually were they able to? I didn't understand this. How were they actually unanimously able to agree that he conspired to promote or prevent the election? That makes no sense.
Well, I guess I'm not sure what you mean, what you're really asking.
Okay, it says here evidence that defendant was present when others agreed to engage in the performance of a crime does not by itself show that he personally agreed to engage in the conspiracy. So by unlawful means, although you must conclude unanimously that the defendant conspired to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, you need not be unanimous as to what those unlawful means were. In determining whether the defendant conspired to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, you may consider the following: 1, violations of FICA, 2, the falsification of other business record, and 3, the violation of tax laws. So if they actually determined that one of these happened, that means he actually had the intent to prevent the election of a person. Is that what this is trying to claim?
They're putting it under an umbrella to, at least as I assume, to make it more simple for the jurors to kind of work through this, what is admittedly kind of a thorny issue. But, I'm not sure where you're looking in this context here, so I'm not sure.
Let me ask you this. What is determining if the defendant had a violation of tax laws has to do with the intent of fucking promoting or preventing an election of a person?
So what I want to clarify here is, again, the standard for this is that the crime was either aided, committed, or concealed, or there was an intent to do any of those things through the falsification of business records. These are the 3 charges, these are the 3 crimes which they are alleging the prosecution fits within that part of the elements definition of 175.10. And what the judge is saying here is that while the jury needs to agree that one of these things has occurred to satisfy this element, they don't need to agree which one.
Can I ask one thing? Is it possible that FICA could have been possible and agreed upon and unanimous if and only if they can prove that Trump paid over $2,700 as a contribution? Is that true or no?
I'm confused as to what you're asking.
What I'm asking is FICA. It says here that which exceeds a certain limit of 2,700. Basically, he's explaining to them what FICA is. It is unlawful for an individual to willfully make a contribution to any candidate with respect to any election of federal office, including the office of the presidency of over $2,700. So if I can prove that Trump paid over $2,700 to, I guess, further for FICA, for example, in anything included under the definition of FICA, does that mean now I can actually link this to the earlier the determination of unlawful intention or unlawful means, and then link this to saying that, oh wow, according to this, if he paid over 2,700, then he did actually commit a crime of contribution of basically breaking the FICA contribution law? Is that true? And can I actually commit that as the crime? And maybe use that, say that this is the crime that he was trying to falsify records to commit. Is that possible?
So I think I'm understanding what you're trying to say, but it just all right. So I'll answer your question as I think it is, and then if you feel like
let me explain. This is why I mention it, because it says here under the Federal Election Campaign Act, it's unlawful for you to contribute over 2,700. Why would they mention FICA in the unlawful means if that didn't mean that him paying over 2,700 is a crime? That's what I'm understanding, right?
Yeah,
he violated the FICA law by paying over 2,700.
Or he intended to do so, aided the commission of, or again, all of the necessary possible ways that you can satisfy 175.10. Yes, as I understand it, that's what.
So you guys see how this could be? This is so crazy. Like his crime could be that he spent over 2,700 in a donation. Like if he spent over $2,700 in a donation, he would have been charged with this exact guilty verdict. Can you guys believe that?
Okay, so
am I wrong?
Well, that's what the campaign finance law is, right? That's the max donation.
Yeah, but to fill it up, to make it a felony, to level it up to a felony, this is how they did
it. But here's the thing: it is a felony with any crime. 175.10 is a felony with any crime when business records are falsified to aid, commit, sorry, hold on. I'll read specifically from the statute because I want to be very specific here. With the intent to commit, aid, or conceal another crime. It doesn't specify only crimes that are just big enough in our eyes. It says any crime. And the reason for this, at least I think, is because they want to prevent the fraudulent use of business records to commit, conceal, or aid crimes. This is like a very RICO-style thing. This is targeted at things like organized crime, targeted at things like criminal schemes, and in this case, they're alleging that a criminal scheme took place.
To be honest,
your sort of confusion at the fact that this crime, which seems comparatively small to you, is included. Your incredulity of that is not grounds for appeal. The fact of the matter is the law allows any crime to be used to escalate this to a Class C felony in New York. They used another law to do so. I don't think that you're going to be able to find fault in the theory there, and if you can, I'm certainly welcome to hear it, but I haven't heard anybody do it successfully so far.
Well, he didn't actually give the money to a candidate, so why would he even rise these FICA laws as an actual violation to and enforce this? Like, I'm sure a couple of these juries looked at the FICA laws and forced this unanimous guilty verdict because of the FICA law. I'm sure at least one or two, if not four at least, looked at this and said, yeah, he did make a violation to the FICA Act, and so the falsifying records included the FICA Act violations or were done so the FICA Act violations. But my understanding is how could you prove that there was a FICA Act violation?
It's not the jury's job to determine to all agree unanimously on how a crime was committed. Their only job, it's like an on and off switch. It is a Boolean function. Yes or no. Was there a crime committed? Period. They don't all have to agree on what crime it was. That's the fundamental misunderstanding that you're making here. This is a great movie, 12 Angry Jurors, and you should watch that because the people in the jury room don't have to agree. Unanimity means that they all say whether it happened or it didn't. They don't have to say this is exactly how it happened.
Okay. No. I'm not understanding this because
great movie.
Sorry.
I just want to kind of come back to what you originally talked about, but I want to give you a chance to respond to what you were just asked first. So let's put a pin in the FICA stuff, and I promise that I'll come back to it.
No. I don't want to put a pin in it. This is actually
You want to talk about it now?
Yeah,
Okay,
I want to
perfect.
deal with the FICA right now.
Okay, so under the description for FICA, under the instructions that are given to the jury, there is a section.
Did he contribute to
Okay.
a candidate?
I promise I have to get through this because you're going to hear that explanation in about 5 seconds if you let me, okay? Okay. So, under federal law, a third party's payment of a candidate's expenses is deemed to be a contribution to the candidate unless the payment would have been made irrespective of the candidacy. The reason for the inclusion of this, I'm almost certain, is going to be the fact that this was treated as an expense. This was paid out to Stormy Daniels. The NDA was signed that this was an expense paid on behalf of a candidate. And that is what it describes as being satisfactory for contribution.
So if a candidate deemed it as an expense to pay himself,
this was an expense, and it wasn't paid to himself; it was paid to somebody else through a shell account.
Yeah, but how is this even right?
Through a shell account as. Yeah.
So if a third party paid for me my candidacy and it exceeded 2,700, I'm the one that committed the crime?
No. In this case, what they're alleging, and if we're getting back to how Trump is actually, how he's being accused of the commission of these offenses, as I understand it also from these jury instructions, it's a form of accomplice liability, essentially saying that Trump, through Cohen, was committing these crimes. Not that he is entirely disconnected from this.
And
so the mastermind is the one who would be getting charged, essentially.
Well, not even just the mastermind. Other people besides the mastermind can be an accomplice in a crime. Like, for instance, if you have a bank robbery, the guy who drives the car is charged with bank robbery too, because even though he's the guy driving the car, he's helping commit the crime.
Let's say, for instance, that we were to prove that Michael Cohen was actually the one who had come up with all of this. Donald Trump would still be culpable because he was an accomplice. He was involved in the crime.
To the extent that he's an accomplice. I want to be careful, because if it was just Cohen and there was no input from Trump, no working with Trump, no anything, no way to link Trump as an accomplice, then of course he wouldn't be charged with anything. And it would be...
But obviously the prosecution's job in this case was to prove that Donald Trump was involved and that he had definite intent and he knew what was going on, because knowledge of what you're doing is kind of an important part in proving intent.
Further, to sort of kind of expand upon that, the jury almost certainly heard these defenses. The jury almost certainly heard, well, no, it was all Cohen's idea. These are probably things that the Trump attorneys rose as defenses. And the jury decided who they believed. It was their job as the fact finders to evaluate the credibility of the witnesses that they heard there on the stand, to evaluate the evidence that they saw, and determine whether or not that was sufficient to meet the standard of guilt and to fulfill all of the elements of the crime, 175.10 falsifying business records in New York, a Class C felony. And they returned 34 guilty verdicts on the basis of the instructions they were given.
Oh, I think your camera's frozen.
Oh no.
We've lost Manar to a frozen camera. He said hello, but we might have also lost Manar.
It was getting good.
Oh god. I think his neighbor took him out. I joined his stream randomly earlier today, and he was yelling out of his window to his neighbor. It was a great random time to join stream.
Yeah,
That's kind of unlucky.
True, yeah. We were at the meat of the conversation, and we lost him.
Yeah.
Damn,
I can't lie. I'm a little bit sad.
That's a little bit of political blue balls there.
Right?
Hello?
He looks.
There we go. What's up, Manar?
Hey.
Man, my whole internet went down. I don't know what happened. Everything got disconnected. I don't know what happened.
Did your neighbor come at you, Manar? Was it your neighbor?
Man, he's yelling still. Isma, I'm on my phone now, so that's kind of weird.
Oh, I also heard some mention of the statute of limitations earlier as well, and I'm happy to address that as well, because that's a common myth that's been going around.
I didn't even know anything about it. I was throwing
Yeah.
out terms and just saying whether or not this, whether or not that, it's still the same bag. It's the situation doesn't change.
Well, this case is well within the statute of limitations.
Well, then there you are.
Because I'll just explain kind of briefly. It's a Class E felony in New York. A Class E felony has a statute of limitation of 5 years, which would normally put this outside of the statute of limitations. However, NYCLS CPL section 3010, subsection E, 2B of this, extends the statute of limitations for public officials for crimes committed while they were in office by 5 years, so long as that doesn't put them more than 5 years past the original statute date. So if the original statute date, it looks like the earliest alleged crime is in February of 2017 when Trump was in office, the statute date would put that in February 2022, but it gives them an extension of 5 years past the date that they left office. So
I have a question.
What's up?
It comes back to the FICA. I was going to mention this before I got disconnected.
Sure. What's up?
Right before they get to the falsification of other business records, right before they move on, they say if the payment under federal law, a third party's payment of a candidate's expenses is deemed to be a contribution to the candidate, unless the payment would have been made irrespective of the candidacy. Yes. Now, why can I not claim? Why can't Trump claim that? Hey, I heard that Stormy Daniels was going to sell this story, so I just wanted to offer her to see if I can buy her selling this story. Why can't he say this has nothing to do with the candidacy, and this is just has to do with my personal name? I want to keep my personal name clear.
I imagine that's probably something that he can claim, but it's up to whether or not the jury believes, as a matter of fact, that that's true, or whether or not this is within. There's
what evidence did they provide? What evidence did they provide?
That's happened. Well, you honestly believe that is what's going on right now, because the man was running for president. Anything that you do when you're running for president is specifically to defend your public image. What are you talking about? Anything that you do, like with regard to hush money, is obviously going to be to defend your public image. Let's not be disingenuous here.
No, I'll give you an example. For example, let's say he only heard about the Stormy Daniels selling her story like that month or that week. Then he would have an incentive to speed up the process to pay her and get that done ASAP for his own name. Basically, all I have to prove that he just heard this recently, that's all I have to prove. You actually have no ability to prove otherwise. You can't actually destroy that. You have to prove that he knew about it.
Again, though, juries draw inferences from evidence all the time.
Yeah, but it could be a wrong inference.
Yeah, of course, but that's the thing, is that juries are empowered to draw inferences that are reasonable under the facts.
Okay, what was the claim? What was the claim why he wasn't doing this for his public image and this was a candidacy-linked operation? What was the claim?
I mean, we don't have the entire transcript of the trial, so I can't lay out every single piece of evidence that was had during the discussion. All I can say is that that's a determination of fact, and one that the jury either heard or the attorneys didn't bring up, in which case it's not really an issue for the jury, because...
One last question I want to ask. So if Trump can prove that he did this for his own personal image, or for example, to keep his marriage safe, or for example, so his kids don't fucking attack him and leave the business, then that's actually all better and actually has no link to the candidacy, correct? And that means this FICA charges would be false.
Truly, I actually have no idea. The fact of the matter is,
they're gonna attack Trump.
So, okay, again,
don't say you don't have an idea. You have an idea. You actually have an idea. Don't say you know about everything except this. No way.
No, I actually, because the specifics of how this law is treated and what qualifies as like specific illegal conduct under this law, like what you're talking about is like a niche subsect of this specific piece of law. But there are also a number of other things that could come into play here. For instance, I don't know whether or not this law that they're talking about is strict liability, and if it's strict liability, he wouldn't need intent at all. But, I mean, I can look at the Federal Election Campaign Act, but that is a specific issue that would probably require its own subsect of research. Even so, right? Assuming that it would exonerate him, just operating on that premise for the sake of argument, again, determination for the jury to make. They were welcome to make it, but they didn't, so
Now I just got to destroy the next two ones. Okay, no worries. I already destroyed the first
Hold
Fika
on,
one.
you didn't.
Yeah, I did. I did. You have no idea what his intent was. You actually, I don't know. It wasn't looked at.
I
You
just
made
explained to you that
speculations.
that's a determination for the jury, and that the jury didn't make that determination. You can't point to any particular evidence that you think leads in favor of your novel theory.
How do you know? The jury actually never spoke on this. The jury actually never spoke on this.
Well, again,
Trump would never be this charitable to you in a courtroom. Trump
No,
would
no, no. The
not be
problem
this
is, no, no. Listen to me, guys.
So you-
Listen to me.
the jury had the opportunity.
The jury didn't mention. Let me finish, please. The jury didn't mention what crime they found him on.
Sure.
The jury just said unanimous. We agree. He falsified these records so he can commit one of these crimes. That's all they were unanimous on. So the jury actually never spoke on the Fika violation.
Sure,
They,
but
this
you
is
can't.
not a,
What you can't do though is you can't hand wave the entire thing away and say, well, then this obviously isn't what they used, right? Because you don't actually know that. By the same token, we don't have jurors' interrogatories to say exactly which mechanism they used to determine that he satisfied 175.10, because of course that's not required per the judge's jury instructions. So just hand waving it away and say, oh, well, I've dealt with one, but you haven't. By the same token, in your brain that's true, but that's entirely in your mind's eye. Like that.
No, you haven't argued. You haven't argued for the intent yet. All I hear is it was during the election. That's it. I mean, but that doesn't stop everything else that happens in the full. Can I finish my point?
We don't know.
Can I finish my point? Can I finish my point, please? Can I finish my point?
Just really
Can
quick,
I just finish my point, guys?
Why is it on the public to prove the intent? Why
No,
is
no,
it not
no,
the
no.
prosecution?
You can't
Why is it
sit
not
here
the prosecutor's
speculating.
job?
No, you can't sit here forcing speculations upon us. And how do you know what's in my brain? You don't know. You don't know if I paid this porn star because my mom was gonna beat me up or because I was gonna get a good job. You don't. None of your business. You have no idea. I didn't actually mention this at all. And the whole time, Trump was actually saying, "I've never even met this woman." He's actually denying it the whole time. So you actually have no evidence of intent in any way, and I don't think it was actually presented. Besides the election timeline, that's the only evidence you have that there was an intent to commit a fraud when it comes to the violation of FICA. That's it. So, anyways, let's move on. I think I completed FICA.
No, again, I'm gonna just briefly circle back around to this. I'm gonna just briefly circle back around to this because this really just isn't the only thing it is.
We are getting stuck on this, so I do want to. I'll give Manar and I'll give you a chance to make final comments on this. But I do want to move to, you do have the right to a fair trial as one of your core human rights. Do you think that it is possible to give Trump a fair trial with how the media portrays him today? I do want to move to that, but before, if you want to give your closing statement, Pharmacy, then we can move on.
Yeah, for sure. So the issue of intent is one that could have been heard in the courtroom. That's an issue for the jury to decide. This specific, oh, well, I guess we don't really know. It's sort of a non-argument. It's just you kind of pontificating. We don't have the full record from the jury. Again, you don't even know whether or not this would be a sufficient defense. You're kind of just asserting that and hoping that it works. But we don't actually know. You don't know. You're just kind of coattailing off of
exactly. Yeah, and also the defense didn't even know that this was a charge that was going to be held against Trump till the closing statement. So no one actually knew. Even the defense in the actual trial had no idea about this FICA violation. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, but you cannot tell me that this is not even that they actually have non-deniable, 100% criminal evidence. You know what I mean? Preponderance of evidence. You cannot claim that there's a preponderance of evidence when it comes to that intent.
Well, maybe you can. Again, we don't know what the testimony was at trial. We didn't hear the presentations by counsel. Again, you're just sort of asserting that and hoping that it flies. You're welcome to do that, but I don't think it's very persuasive, and it certainly doesn't satisfy me.
I mean, so. You show me how else would you attack the FICA case? You can't. There's no other way to attack it.
Again,
you have to actually.
I've already said what needs to be said here. So.
Yeah, and we're also pretending like lawyers don't. Have you ever seen a crime drama? Saving the exciting reveal for the end of the case? This whole courtroom's out of order. Sorry.
Yeah, but it seems to be very special. This is a prominent political case, and to sit there concealing your evidence, concealing your charges.
That's illegal. That's illegal. You can't conceal evidence. There's a thing called discovery where at the beginning of the trial, you can't conceal evidence from the other party. There's a thing called discovery where you have to show the other party everything that you found.
The defense had no idea what the charges were going to be put up against Trump until the closing statements. So they had
So
no
if
ability.
the decision
For
wasn't
example-
made before the trial, when discovery happens, how are you supposed to? How are you supposed to disclose that?
Manar,
No,
what do you
it's
mean by
what he was
charges
thinking.
here?
No,
The
What happened
charges are
with the
listed
defense?
in the indictment.
He
Yeah,
didn't know
I
what he was being
agree.
charged with.
But the way the closing statements were delivered is what forced these charges to become the actual criminal intent. There was no actual. The charges were the federal that he actually changed, falsified the documents. But these new crimes, this was nothing except at the end. So the defense didn't even have a proper time to defend against them. They actually didn't even provide any witnesses. So the defense actually didn't even know what they were actually defending against. They knew they had to defend against the falsifying charges, but they didn't know they had to defend against other crimes.
Well,
So we do have the statement of facts, which did include the illegal campaign contributions. Again, I read that section to you earlier. I will reread it if you want me to. It's paragraph 3 of the statement of facts. It's been public record for a long time. They've had it.
Yeah, the falsifying records, yeah, but not the new crimes.
Well,
the
no,
crime.
again, the illegal campaign contribution was included in the statement of facts, paragraph 3.
The illegal, which
I read it
illegal
that section.
contribution? The one me and you are discussing right now.
The alleged legal campaign contributions made by lawyer A, which he pled guilty for, that again is Michael Cohen, and which formed the basis for the charges here.
That's the falsification. That's not the crime
Well, no,
post the
again,
falsification.
I want to be clear. This payment was illegal, and lawyer A has since pleaded guilty to making an illegal campaign contribution and served time in prison. That's read directly from paragraph 3. And what we're talking about here is FICA, which is federal campaign law. So, again, we're talking about campaign contributions.
I got us back into it, Isaac. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll leave it there. But they did know it's in the statement of facts, paragraph 3.
I feel like I do want to try to switch this because like I said, I don't want to get stuck on this for too long. But if you, yeah, but if you do think that you have the right to, for Manar, if you think that, because I think this is a good strong point for you, you have the right to a fair trial in America and as a human right. Do you think that they were able to provide him a fair trial if it's by jury in America?
Okay, I'll give it to you. They did give him a jury trial, and the problem is there was a lot of problems in the jury instruction. There's a lot of problems in the connection of intent post this falsification of records. So not only were they claiming that he falsified records and he conspired with his own office to falsify records in order to win an election, they also added these new criminal charges later on during the actual trial, which actually were not there in the beginning. They were not actually there in the beginning, and they just kept bringing in new charges. So that's why I'm telling you, if you would not appeal, if you wouldn't allow him to appeal, I would have a very big problem. But if you're going to allow him to appeal once or twice, I'm going to be happy with it. I'm going to be okay with it because I'm sure this guilty verdict going to get appealed. I think they actually have standing to appeal. They have good reason, jury instructions. There's really not a lot of evidence on these criminal intents. And honestly, a strong lawyer could argue much better than me on, and he would be able to deliver a blow.
Well,
So if your question
you
is,
keep
I actually
mentioning
agree
that,
that
like, the defense didn't bring up some things till the
were-
end of the trial or
Go ahead.
whatever. The indictment was for the felony, and the felony includes the intent to conceal another crime. But I think the question that Isaac was asking is more like the principle of, is it possible for Trump to get a fair trial, not was this specific trial fair?
With the way the court of public opinion is, like, can they even find an unpolluted jury member?
Oh, it's impossible. Impossible. No, I think it's impossible unless you. The problem is if you put Trump on trial in, for example, in the South or in Texas, he's gonna get 100% support. If you put him in New York, he's gonna get attacked. So it's almost impossible. Yeah, you're never gonna get a non-politically charged concession. Like, you know what I mean?
Do you think it's possible for a judge to make the decision? Manar, do you think
I actually don't disagree. I don't disagree with that idea. I honestly, again, not to be the annoying leftist in the room, but nobody in this country gets a fair trial. It's obscenely weighted in favor of wealthy people, and as we all know, Trump is broke now, so he can't afford very good lawyers, and so he probably got fucking reamed by a very experienced DA, and he felt what it's like to go through the court system as like a poor black person. So I don't think that he got a fair trial. I don't think you can give him a fair trial. Fucking number one, the
Well,
fucking
I mean, I
$1 million
would just
lawyers he doesn't have access to. His lawyers are dog dicks. Okay. Number two,
100% believe
everybody
that.
knows
He's
about all
former
of this stuff.
president. He's the
Everybody
former
knows
president. What
about
do you mean
this
he's
stuff.
for?
What?
He's the former president of the United States.
It was
He
a
has,
joke
like,
in
some of the
response to
biggest
the
marketing.
fraud.
yeah.
It was a joke in reference of the fraud case he lost, and
He
he lost
also
a
keeps
lot of
talking
money in
about
that.
how he's running out of money. What he keeps talking about how he's running out of money. That's not from me. That's out of the horse's mouth himself. He's like, look, I'm fucking hard up. I can't keep all of these legal fees. He has literally said that himself.
The way I heard it was, hey, they're sucking all my time from being able to go into like my election procedures. I can't go to my conventions. They keep sucking my time. And the way I hear it is they're interfering with my time. It's not interfering with my money necessarily, but yeah, I'm sure this is very.
Also, if I remember correctly, after the actual felony indictment did happen, I think he got like the largest amount of donations a political candidate has in 24 hours.
Yeah,
he's looking. His money now is
going broke.
Unfortunately higher.
He did raise millions of dollars, but I would like to add that obviously fair is a spectrum, so it's going to be much harder to get for Trump to get a fair trial in terms of in terms of jury selection. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think our court process is pretty robust. Trump's lawyers could strike down jurors if they wanted to. I think even in the case with the New York hush money case, I'm pretty sure they did strike down jurors. They could ask questions to jurors. I think they were allowed 10 questions to all the jurors. I think judges as well. It's possible, like Trump, if he wants to, he can not have a jury trial. He can have a trial by judge. And now I would assume most of you probably think the judge is going to be more biased. That's why Trump usually selects the jury trial, but he does have the option to have a panel of judges review his case as well. Trump has access to all these appeal processes where if he feels like he's being treated unfairly, he can appeal. So obviously fair is a spectrum, and it may be harder. I'm assuming Manar is going back on his computer.
I'm back.
I would assume it's definitely harder for Trump to get a fair trial in the sense of compared to regular people, but I would still say it's possible for Trump to get a fair trial, at least fair within the eyes of the law.
So politically, he's gonna be politically, it's almost impossible. I don't know how you guys actually have any trust in the criminal justice system. You guys, we've already talked about this at the beginning. This is the first president to ever get charged with a criminal crime. This is something setting precedents. And
that's great. That's great. I love holding the powerful accountable. Why is it poor people?
Why is it not for assassination? Why is it not for droning? Why is it not for selling weapons? Why is it for falsifying a document?
Because we encourage that in America because it supports a corporate scheme of controlling the world and extracting its resources. What are you saying? Everybody knows why we do that. We know why we drone strike shit. We know why we had to go to the Middle East. It was a war over oil. Everybody is aware of this. It's an open secret in this country. I don't know what we're talking about at this point.
Well, I think usually also presidents are given pretty broad protection over actions they take that are acting within the official capacity of the presidency. When obviously the action, most of the things Trump are being charged for were not him acting as the official capacity as the president.
It was trying to get to be president, and then the shit that he did afterwards, because the whole time he was just trying to protect his public image and flex. And I mean, I'm cloud obsessed too.
I want to get a serious question.
If he had become Instagram famous, I would have been a follower.
I have a serious question. I really want to know what the public perception of people, how it changed, especially you Biden supporters. I want to know how it changed with this guilty indictment, because it doesn't seem like it actually should change your public perception anyway. If there's a crime that is a felon, like if a president's supposed to be felon, I feel like we should charge them on something so much bigger than just falsifying these fucking tax papers and sending payments to a fucking porn star.
I'm not a Biden supporter at all. I don't want to be associated
You're definitely
with
not
that.
a supporter.
Biden is a war criminal, but Trump was a war criminal. All of the American presidents for the last 150 years have been open, out and about fucking war criminals. It's been pretty ridiculous. But I don't really.
Does it change your public perception on Trump? This actual crime?
What do you mean? The actual crimes, like
do you actually call him a felon now?
Israel?
Like, do you actually believe him as a criminal, or is this just a joke to you? And you're like, wow, this is actually not serious.
No,
I feel like they could have gotten him something much more
serious. I'm absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. I make a lot of jokes, but no, I'm dead ass serious. This motherfucker is a war criminal. Biden is a war criminal. They should be taken. They should be dragged by their fucking ears to The Hague. That's what they needs to happen.
Would you actually would
okay?
accept Biden going into court and trying to defend his crimes, war crimes? For example, like funding
Hell no.
Ukraine, funding.
No. I don't think that he should get the chance to fucking defend himself because he would just gaslight everyone. He's been doing it for 100 years. Like, he's really goddamn good at it. I don't think that he should be allowed to defend himself. I think that everybody fucking knows that we've been committing open war crimes.
Okay.
Since the first George Bush, we've been committing open war crimes.
Okay, what about the other
Well-
Biden supporters? Did this actually change your opinion on Trump in any way?
Well, the conviction itself did not significantly change my
Am I
opinion
wrong?
on Trump because I already kind of figured he was guilty. I think it does lend more credence to the fact that he was guilty. But again, also, the presidents are granted protection for things like acting as the official capacity of the president. It's because Trump wasn't acting as the president when he did these things. I think the only thing that you can maybe say he was acting as the president in is the January 6th stuff. But even that is contentious whether he was acting it with his official capacity as the president. So it's because Trump wasn't acting it as the acting president when he did these things that he's able to be charged for them. And he's not able to be charged for like war crimes or drone strikes or whatever.
Okay, my question is, do you believe that this should be enough to get him out of the election, basically, like not getting elected at all? Would you actually, like, let's say one of your candidates...
Do you mean like
something
off the ballot or just like for me not to vote for him? I wasn't going to vote for him for a
Off
lot
the
of other
ballot.
reasons as well. Off the ballot? No, I don't think this should get him off the ballot now.
But you feel like there is something that could get him off, like, right? If we catch him on murder, catching on selling national security.
Well, you can
information.
run for president if you
Insurrection.
committed murder. The only thing
No,
that would
let's say national
disqualify
security
you,
threat.
the only thing that would like disqualify you is insurrection, right? And the other things under the 14th Amendment, like supporting an insurrection or rebellion. But the Supreme Court already ruled on that and
Yeah,
ruled that the
being a
14th
traitor.
Amendment isn't self-executing for federal offices. So,
Yep.
despite whatever feelings I have about that Supreme Court ruling, that's what the Supreme Court ruled. So, I don't think he should be kicked off the
You
ballot
just
because
fucking
apparently
love Stephen Breyer. I don't
the
even know if
14th
he's still
Amendment
alive.
isn't self-executing for federal offices, but is for state offices, which doesn't make sense. But yeah, I don't think he should be kicked off the ballot for this. But he also shouldn't be kicked off the ballot for murder or anything. But I'm not going to vote for him.
What about Enormous? How does this change your opinion on Trump?
Yeah, I probably already wasn't going to vote for him. This is, to me, it seems fair that he was charged with a federal crime here. But, that's just sort of the way things go. I wasn't going to vote for
We
him.
can
Anyway.
say it's fair.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
I would
think it
tell you
makes
it's fair
him-
if you force the misdemeanor. I would give it to you fair, but to turn it into a felony and then to turn that into 34 guilty charges, that's some bullshit, bro.
I mean, to be fair,
Well, what's your defense on the 34 guilty charges? What is that? How is that even a?
Well,
an
each
actual-
record was a separate charge, right?
Yeah,
So,
34
he's
separate
got a longer rap
transactions.
sheet.
Okay,
He's
but
got a
we already
longer
know.
rap sheet than fucking Immortal Technique. All right,
No,
he's
no,
dope.
no, wouldn't
Makes
that-
like
wouldn't that make
11%
it-
more dope?
Sorry. Wouldn't that make it that you have to prove every single check was had a FICA violation or a tax fraud violation or a crime committed to it? Isn't that what that means? That every single check had to be connected to a crime?
yeah, and the jury had the opportunity to not find him guilty on any one of them or all of them, and they found him guilty on all of them.
No, but they didn't have the ability to pick and choose. They did not have the ability. They were forced
What do
to
you-
either be
I-
unanimous or not unanimous. That's it. So I'm sure we're
No,
going to
on
see in a few.
each count-
Maybe
on each
he
count,
can
you
correct
can't
me-
Force them to push all 34 of the convictions. You can say each conviction has to be unanimous, but they have to agree 34 times. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter
this is
why they agree.
ridiculous.
Doesn't matter what they agree on. What do you mean it's
Yeah,
ridiculous?
but
If
no,
you
no,
agree
I
on
understand what you're
maybe
saying,
Enormous
dude.
Pharmacy can correct me if I'm wrong, but the
Let me
jury
finish
could have
what
found
you're
him
saying.
guilty on
Let
only
me finish,
one
let me finish.
falsifying record count, right? And the other
Okay,
33.
no.
Yeah,
This is what you guys are saying. Let me say one thing. So what you're saying is the first check that he sent, it could have been a FICA violation. The next one was a tax fraud. The third one was an actual crime of conspiracy. Then you can do and re-alternate. Then you go again. The fourth one was an actual FICA crime. The fifth one was an
Yes,
actual
our
tax
criminal
fraud.
justice system
fuck
is
yourself.
yes.
Yeah.
That's
You're
bullshit.
saying-
Enormous,
So-
deal with that right now.
criminal justice
Okay,
system is
so-
a mess. You're absolutely right. You're not wrong. It's a fucking
Enormous,
rat.
deal with it.
It's a-
Enormous, deal with it.
Just to be clear, if my conduct constitutes a different crime each time I do some sort of criminal conduct, then yeah, I might be charged for committing that crime in different ways each time.
I'm not defining any one of them.
They're all
On
defined
every
in
one
the
of
jury
these guilty
instructions.
charges?
Yeah, they're all defined in the jury instructions. That's what they're
Okay,
there for.
okay, but when you find him guilty on every single one of those charges, you don't have to define which crime you found him guilty. So that means they could have found him on the first violation guilty because of falsifying documents and tax fraud, and then on the second one was guilty because even though it's the same check, basically.
If they wanted to, yes, because again, these are different ways to satisfy the elements, and
So
each one is valid in its own right.
So if anything,
Your incredulity here is unwarranted.
So if anything, you breaking it to 34 guilty charges just broke the whole case because now you have to prove intent to every single one of these charges.
Yeah, that's how being charged for the crime works. But to be clear, the jury walked away and said, yes, the prosecutor did do that.
Bro, stop talking about
After a
the jury
multi-day
acting
trial.
like the jury didn't have special instructions that had never been given before in their life. They've never been seen a charge like this before.
Wait, so
They've been kept
these instructions have never been seen? Can you source that at all? Because I have seen jury instructions.
This is ridiculous. 35 guilty. No. Let me finish my claim. You don't even know what my claim is. My claim is they've never found a human being guilty of 34 different charges, but every one of them was a different crime. This is bullshit.
Again, you have no way to substantiate that. Like,
I use
your time right now. We are shuffling side to side.
One crime. Hey, enormous! Neither of you do you even have actual evidence that they found all of him guilty, all 34 charges, because of the same crime after falsifying documents. You actually
they don't have to agree that they were all the same crime because all of them satisfy the requirements.
I don't need to do that.
No,
that is not the standard. That is not the standard. That is not the standard. And only thing you have is your incredulity. You have nothing to point to that shows that this is a contrary standard. Again, you have nothing to point to which shows that this is contrary to any standards that exist in the United States court system. All you have is your incredulity, and I'm sorry, that's not enough.
Okay. When did you ever see one fucking guilty charge be broken to charges because of different payments? I've never seen that one before.
Just gonna remind you, you're not talking about the actual law. You're dodging back to your incredulity.
Let me finish. Then you can respond. And then further on, there's 34 guilty charges. Not one of them was actually defined what crime was committed post falsifying the documentation. Now, one of these 34 guilty charges, you actually have any idea what the crime is. How the fuck am I supposed to even defend this as a criminal defense lawyer?
So
this is ridiculous, man.
Just real quick. Let me get in here. Just real quick. Okay, we have the most people in our criminal justice system right now. Any country has ever had in its entire existence. I'm trying to build a bridge here. Okay? We have so many people.
Manar.
Let me ask you guys a question. You think that no one out of the millions of people in our criminal justice system has ever been charged with 34 separate crimes? People are nuts.
No.
Crazy. It's okay. It has happened. I guarantee it.
I guarantee that has happened. What I'm talking about.
There are millions of people who have cycled
now
through
they
the
have
system,
to prove
dude.
every single one of those charges in the appeal.
To be clear,
beyond a reasonable doubt,
they have found facts already. The jury has found the facts in this case. Appeals, except for very limited circumstances, are now going to be on purely legal issues, no longer factual issues. Judges are very, very. They have an aversion to overturning things that juries did in terms of fact finding, and the reason for that is that they don't want to upset the system that we have in the United States of allowing juries to make these calls. Now, again, I want to just dial back to this because the only thing that you have is your incredulity that they made this finding. That's it. You can't point to any legal standards that have been violated. All you can say is, "I can't believe it. The sky is falling." I'm sorry.
No, that's
we're dealing with legal issues here, which means you need to come with legal precedent.
No, once you
statute, jury instructions, you need to come with something to actually demonstrate your point. You don't have that.
Once the 34 once one charge became 34 different guilty charges because of every single check. Now every single check has to you have to be able to prove the intent of every single one.
And the jury concluded
this is insane because the whole crime there wasn't 34 different guilty verdicts. It was only one charge based on 130,000 payment. And then when they realized there was so many checks, then the judge changed the actual ruling on this. This is actually completely going to be overruled. And this is actually all happened at the end of the trial, and it's going to get a question. I promise you that.
So let me ask you a question. Have you read the indictments?
Yeah, I've read them.
So how many counts are there in the indictments?
Many more than 34.
Okay. So just to be clear, are there 34 falsifying business record indictments? Or
let me ask you
in the indictment. Okay, no, hold on. Because what you just claimed was that it was all one charge. It wasn't 34, and then at the end of the trial, they suddenly split them up. But here I'm looking at the indictment. Is it or isn't it true that there are at least 34 counts of falsifying business records in the indictment? Is it an indictment? Okay, so did you lie or are you mistaken?
No. They falsified the business record, but not 34.
Did you lie or were you mistaken?
Verdicts, not 34 charges of crimes. There's nothing like that.
So did you lie or were you mistaken?
Checks that were, and you guys are claiming that that's your evidence that there's a fraudulent case. But there's actually no evidence that this was in furtherance of a crime 34 times. You have no actual evidence on this.
Again, you're now dodging. What you said, I'm just going to remind you what you said, okay? You said that all of these were one count and that it was suddenly split up at the end of the trial. Here I have the indictment. Yes. So to be clear, there are, just scrolling down here, we're going to check and see exactly how many falsifying business records in the first degree charges there are 34 counts in the indictment. So were you lying or are you mistaken?
No, I'm not lying. The judge broke those to 34 different counts. It was one charge of falsifying business record, and he broke it to 34 different counts because of the 34 different...
This is the indictment. This is what the prosecutor filed. So were you lying or were you mistaken?
He's working with the prosecutor to accept this charge. He's the one that allowed them to go and break into 34 different charges.
Just going to bring it back. What you said is it was charged as one, and then it was split up at the end. This is the initial charge. This is the initial charging document. This is what the prosecutors.
Yeah, if you notice, the initial charges was only on $130,000. Now they're on talking about $420,000 payment. If you notice that the actual payment changed as well.
Okay, but again, there are 34 counts in this indictment. Is that or isn't that true?
Yeah, the judge broke it to 34 different counts with the prosecutor.
Isn't it true that this was filed with the prosecutor?
Yeah, but he worked with the prosecutor and allowed them to do that, even though they have actually no precedent to do that. They have no reason to do that.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Do you just? I'm confused because
you even know what I was saying. I actually didn't even mention that. What I was mentioning is you have to actually now have proof. You have to prove the 34 crimes were connected to the
How much research have you actually done into like criminal justice history as far as, for instance, just mob charges go, RICO charges, but like petty charges for normal criminals? They throw the book at you, my dude. They give you all of the charges all at once. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. I understand what you guys are saying, but this is a president of the United States. This is not precedented. This is never precedented.
What do you mean?
No president has been charged before on RICO.
No, what do you mean? Okay.
The RICO charges, I think, was another case.
So we're treating the president the way that we treat everybody else. Good. That's
but the RICO is something else.
Is equality bad? Shouldn't okay? Wait. So are
the RICO case actually has already been halted.
Are there two?
That one has already been granted a state.
Are there two criminal justice systems in this country, or are there one? Is there only one?
It's clear
because
there's more than
two,
one.
Then we charge the president differently than we charge everyone else.
I was gonna say that's a good question.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Should the president be? Yeah, that's a good question to the panel. Should the president be charged differently than an everyday person? That's a good
Yeah, he should have special laws upon him. Like basically, his limitations should be much higher than any other normal person.
He should be charged exactly the same as any other citizen.
No, I don't agree with that. He should have higher limitations and higher restrictions to enter the legal challenging.
Okay, but he actually
because he's a prominent figure. Everyone's going to try to challenge him legally. They actually have to have a real challenge to him. They can't just every time somebody thinks they have a trial against them now they can file it. No, it should be even higher than like tort cases, for example.
That's how that works.
It has to be
for acts he did. For acts he did, acting in the capacity as the president, he should probably not be charged for under the normal criminal justice system. He should probably go through some impeachment process in Congress. But if he's committing acts as a private citizen, either before or after he was president, or even when he was
Even
president
after.
and he was just acting as a private citizen when he committed a crime, he probably should be charged the same as a normal citizen.
Yeah,
I
but
want to be clear.
Actually,
Hold on,
presidents-
because there was a
former
mistake that
presidents
was
don't
made.
get Secret Service protection. They can't act as private citizens. They still are. They still have a certain amount of authority.
There's
Go ahead.
been a mistake made already. The standard is higher than the tort standard to charge the president with a crime. It needs to go through a grand jury. A tort complaint can be filed by anybody, for the most part, at any time, and the only pleading standard that you need to meet is the Twombly-Iqbal standard. It doesn't need to go through a review by anybody on a grand jury. That standard is already higher than the tort standard. So what you're asking for is already done. He shouldn't be given special treatment over other citizens in the United States because we have one law for our criminal statutes. People should be charged equally under
yeah,
that
but you
law.
should understand that this is a prominent political figure, and
I don't
he's
care.
gonna be attacked. Hey, let me finish a point.
It could be Jesus.
Let me finish a point. This is a prominent political figure, and he's going to be attacked from every side. You should have protection for him from being attacked legally from his political opposition.
Yeah,
you
for sure.
actually have, and you have to have higher limitation and restrictions than any other case. Even if he does have the grand jury, this you can actually trust the grand jury, especially with the jurisdiction.
Gotcha.
For example, if you're going to allow the grand jury, then you should also allow him to change jurisdiction any moment he wants. Which
So,
you guys
wait.
don't allow that.
So who can we trust? Like, if we can't trust a grand jury, we can't trust the judges, we can't trust
Yeah.
the prosecutor. Like,
There's a reason you
who's
don't
there?
prosecute your presidents. Yes, because it looks
Gotcha.
really like shit to you.
yeah.
It
So
looks like
I guess when presidents commit crimes, they should just get away with it.
Yeah. A misdemeanor? Sure, let him go. Let him get the DUI, and let him get the DUI and go home. Yeah.
To be clear, this is not a misdemeanor. This is a felony
forced me as a
charge.
Classy
misdemeanor.
felony,
You're
yeah.
trying to force intent upon this.
It's a classy
Really,
felony
there's
in New
no
York.
intent
It's not
to
just
create a crime.
one.
It's
It's not
clear as
just
day
one.
that Trump
How
all
many
he wanted to do was
DUIs?
just save his name.
How many
That's all.
times? How
You're
many times do we
forcing
let the
an intent.
president get
you
away
and
with
the
drunk
jury.
driving?
No, this is
Literally,
some
how
bullshit.
many
You want me to
times?
believe? Let me finish, please. You want me to believe that this is your judicial system? What a disgusting criminal judicial system. No need to actually prove a crime was made. No need to actually
they did.
prove that. No, shut the fuck up. You actually don't even have to prove intent of a crime because you
They
don't
did.
even have to claim what crime you actually accepted from him. You
They did.
just say, yeah, he did falsify documents, and yeah, it looks like to me he did have the intent. But you don't have to prove it in any way. You don't have to show it in any way. What a disgusting system. You want me to
Gotcha.
believe in this?
So just to be very clear, they did have to prove it. They did have to
Nothing.
prove
No,
the
they didn't
intent.
prove it. Tell me one
again,
jury.
wait,
Tell me
so
one
you're
jury
just-
that agreed with
you're-
crime post falsification. Go ahead.
So 12 jurors
They
on
agreed with what?
Trump's-
That he committed the crime post falsification, but they didn't agree on the crime. Go ahead.
again to
They don't
be
have to
clear,
agree on the
right?
crime.
That's not
How did they
part
agree?
of the
Like
standard.
all of them speculating.
Okay,
and
so
shit.
hold on.
Everyone just
Because
speculated their own
what
intent.
what you are doing now is again you're trying to dodge. You have the burden.
Dodging. You're dodging. You actually talk about the jury.
You
You
have
actually
the-
mentioned the jury. Go ahead and
I
explain.
am-
What did the jury find?
Again, the jury
Unanimously
found that he
what?
was.
They
The
found-
jury unanimously
they
found that he was
proven
guilty of all
beyond
34
a
charges.
reasonable
Of all 34
doubt,
charges,
beyond
doing what?
a reasonable doubt. It's
Falsifying
impossible
business records
if you
and
have
the-
footage of everything
In order
happening
to infer a crime, right? In order to
Yes.
push a crime, but
Yep,
no,
to
none
conceal
of them
another crime.
actually define the crime, correct?
Luckily, they don't.
don't
need
have to,
actually
No,
make it
because
fine.
all the
because you're a
crimes
piece
that-
of shit.
all the
Fucking
crimes
you
meet the
are a piece
requirement.
of shit.
So
You're a
just to be
piece of
clear,
shit. Look at this.
you
Let
don't
me
care
finish,
about the
Mike.
law.
Let me finish
You don't
this.
care about
This
the
is
law.
disgusting. No, you have to at least outlaw the intent. You actually
Hey,
at
yes.
least have
They
to
did
show
prove
the
the intent.
intent. You
The
actually have
juries
to.
all found
Yes.
that he had the intent.
No,
all
yeah,
the
but
jury-
they didn't actually
Can I-
prove it. They actually didn't prove it. They just said we are unanimous. Yeah, there's
all
a
the
crime.
juries
They didn't
agreed
prove-
beyond a
Let me
reasonable
finish, guys. They
doubt
couldn't
that Trump
prove a
had the
single
intent to
on
conceal
any
it.
one of these crimes.
Again, to
Okay,
be clear, you don't actually know that. You are just saying.
Well, you don't know that either. You just said they found him
But
guilty, but they didn't say on what.
they found him guilty, so it is a
falsifying charges to commit
necessary.
a crime, but you don't know what the crime is.
It is a necessary predicate.
This is ridiculous.
Of that.
Hey,
It is a necessary
I
predicate
feel-
of that they found
Shut
the
up,
intent
shut up,
necessary
shut up.
for the other crimes.
Imagine I find you guilty, and you're guilty, huh? I know, and you have intention of committing a crime, but I won't tell you what the crime was.
Can I
What a
ask
load
you
of
what you do
bullshit.
for what do you do for a living, Manar? Can I
What a
ask, do you
load of
mind if
bullshit.
I
I'm an
ask you that?
aerospace quality inspector.
I'm sorry, you're an aerospace quality inspector?
Yeah. I work in aerospace. I build your 737 Max. I check on it.
Hell, I've never been on a plane, but hell
Well,
yeah,
when mine crashes, I'm
congratulations.
coming after you,
I'm,
so.
I'm very glad for you. That's an amazing job. That's great.
Go
Fundamentally,
after my company.
you
You're
work,
not
you
gonna
are a worker. You work. You do jobs. You fucking get shit done. You're a worker. I can see it. You got strong arms. You got a strong voice. You're a fucking worker. You're a quality inspector, right?
Yeah, the mechanics do a little bit more, but okay.
What we're forgetting is that everybody here. Nonfon, what do you do for a living?
Nothing. I stream and I get 50 cents a day off of Rumble and Twitch.
Okay,
Speed soldier.
that's a worker. You are, if you weren't streaming on Twitch, whether you're a no viewer Andy or whether you're 100 viewers or whatever, you're still creating value for the company. Do you know why Kick is dying right now? Because nobody goes there intentionally, like just to stream to no one. They have to pay people hundreds of millions of dollars to go to Kick. So, congratulations for you. So here's the thing. All of us are workers, right? Enormous is the only one who works directly with the legal system. So,
yeah, but I can already tell
so
he's
hard
biased.
to
I
listen?
can already tell he does. I asked him if he likes Trump. He doesn't like Trump. When I asked him about the charges, he's very happy and he's giddy. He's like, "Thank God! Thank God I didn't have to tell the intent. Oof! Thank God I didn't have to actually prove a crime. Oof! Thank God! Imagine I actually have to prove a crime against my actual president. Imagine that."
My luckily and all of that, that's tongue in cheek. If he's guilty of a crime, then he should be charged. If he's not, then he shouldn't. That's my position. I don't actually.
But
I
you
want to be
actually
clear.
don't know if he's guilty of a crime. Yeah, literally,
Well,
when the
what I
jury.
do-
Let me just finish, guys. When the
Yep.
jury
Well,
said
he
he's
was
guilty
found
of falsifying
guilty,
the credit. Look, I agree with you. The falsification, I'll give it to you. He's the misdemeanor. Yes, if this is the crime, I'll give it to you, misdemeanor. Let's agree there. Now, when you tell me he did the falsification to commit another crime, and then you define 3 crimes, but not one of you can prove intent or actually prove any other besides speculation, besides literally speculation and
I think
assertion.
Manar is Syrian.
Give me any other proof or evidence that he actually committed these crimes. You have nothing. None of you actually had to provide anything, which is insane.
That token could be used against you as well, though, Manar, because
Yeah, but
you
that's so
also
scary.
haven't
That's so
been
scary.
able
That's
to
why
prove that he
I'm
did.
really
You
scared.
can't prove.
But
Okay, you can't prove a negative. That's the thing. It's not possible to do that.
But
I also want to be very
can't-
clear about something. We don't have the record here. We don't know what every witness said. We don't know every word of the closing arguments. This is a ton of
And we may
information
in
we
time.
don't have. What I've
Do they
spoken on
release
today.
voice scripts?
Because is that when this goes to appeal, when this goes to appeal,
Manar
when
left
this goes
Syria to
appeal,
avoid
when this
being
goes
in the
to appeal,
army.
it will have a record for the appeal, and that there's a decent chance that ends up as part of the public record. So at that point, we'll see a lot of what the witnesses had to say. But right now, what we have is the determination by the jury. And my position is that juries, though they do get things wrong, I'm inclined to have faith in our criminal justice system and to assume that the juries made the determination based upon the evidence.
What? Why do you even have faith on the judicial system? No intent
Because
is being
there's a lawyer.
provided. Let me finish.
Because there-
No
I'm
intent
sorry,
is being
a lawyer-
provided. No
why-
charges, no crime is actually committed. You haven't even proven the commitment of a crime.
Would you
What
have-
makes me believe in your judicial system? This makes no sense. Where's the
No,
intent
I
that you
agree.
committed the crime? Where is it?
Listen, why
Can you
would you have
prove me the
gotten
intent?
into aerospace
No,
engineering?
Para,
Would
let
you
him
have
do it.
gotten into
Can you prove
aerospace
me the intent
engineering
he committed one of these
So-
3 crimes?
if you
Again,
didn't believe in it?
Again, to be clear, right?
This is disgusting. He trusts the judicial system. This
to be
guy's
clear,
a
this
lawyer.
is
and he
not-
trusts the
this
judicial
is not-
system. It's crazy.
This is not my hill to die on here. I don't need to demonstrate all of these things because my claim is that the legal theory here is sound. And that's where I'm planting my flag. I think I'm right. I don't think that you're going to be able to beat me on that. But again, I've been clear from the beginning, and I will continue to be clear on this. My position is that the jury reached their verdict as to the facts, and as they are the fact finders in this case, at least for now, until I have reason to believe otherwise, I trust that they have done so on the basis of a good factual foundation. But what you're talking about is like, well, there's no evidence of X, Y, Z. We don't have the full record, so we don't actually know.
Okay.
And on top of that, also, jurors are allowed to draw inferences based on other facts. This happens all the time in other cases with intent.
Yeah, about intent, yeah.
Yes, and not only for
Yeah, but
intent,
you
but
can't
for
even
other
provide
elements
me.
of the
You
crime
can't even
as well.
provide me your evidence.
Correct. And I've already explained to you why. Everything that I am going to make a strong claim on, I can provide evidence of, and the things that I'm making strong claims on are the legal issues here. And on every single one of those, all you've had is your own incredulity. So
No. I'm actually using the record here. The unlawful means you have to determine intent, but I don't see any determination of intent on all 34 counts. I don't see that.
Right.
Well,
so
Manar, can you at least agree the determination of the jury was that of proven intent?
I need to quickly address something, because jurors generally aren't required to determine each individual element out on their juror sheets. They generally just need to say, yes, the crime was committed. Special interrogatories are used for some situations where it matters, but here in this case, it doesn't matter, and you haven't been able to present any authority to demonstrate that it does matter.
How am I supposed to trust the judicial system when a couple of weeks ago we heard about a case where this girl got paid $120,000 so she can find somebody guilty? You think I have any trust in the judicial system? I won't have any trust in anything.
So you just ignored my criticism.
Yeah, it doesn't make no sense. I don't even want to respond to it. This is BS. As if the jury doesn't have to prove intent for the crime that they just convicted on.
Again, they do have to prove the intent. They do have to prove the intent for the crime that they convicted on, which they did.
No, they did or not. You have no idea, because you can't even claim one.
The jury made that determination.
Yeah, you just think they did, but you have no idea. You've never read into it. You don't even know if it's enough. You have no knowledge of anything. I don't know how you can make this enough.
The jury doesn't have to prove anything, though. The jury is there to decide what was proven in the trial, in the courtroom.
They don't have to give the evidence.
Right, but
they don't have to prove that. They have to decide it. They don't have to
sheets,
prove it. They have to decide it.
On their juror sheets, they just mark whether or not the person is guilty of the crimes, and special interrogatories are used for situations where there is a specific issue that the jury needs to find or make a finding of fact on. In this case, the judge determined in his instructions that there didn't need to be a specific finding of fact as to which particular crime was concealed, aided, for the whole statutory language. But again, I want to quickly finish this up. You are like, oh my god, this is so crazy. You have nothing by which to actually support that with. All you have is you saying, wow, that's so crazy. Which, again, I'm open to you presenting some evidence that
I just want to know the intent. I just want to
know. So again, you're just dodging back to the thing I've already addressed. You're dodging back to the thing I've already addressed. You're welcome to present any evidence that this is non-standard. Do you have any evidence this is non-standard?
Yeah, I don't agree. You can actually correspond and go ahead. Intent from that, whatever the fact of the matter is, you cannot actually infer intent from that. Intent of a crime, you cannot actually infer that. Not at all, unless you're speculating and asserting. That's my argument, is you cannot infer true intent from committing a crime from that fraudulent behavior. You cannot.
Jury of his peers. I never got to know.
I made a claim. Maybe he's trying to protect his name.
They don't have to tell you why they find you guilty. They just have to find you guilty or innocent. That's it. That's all it is.
I know, but what I'm claiming is it's not enough. They haven't provided enough proof.
You're claiming
enough intent. If I was a lawyer, I would attack it from that angle. What were the guilty?
You are claiming.
What was he guilty of, actually? Which
you are 175.10 falsifying business records, a Class E felony in New York. But again, you are asking this question. It's like, all right, well, this is how I would attack it if I'm an attorney. But again, you really haven't presented any evidence that it's a viable angle of attack. That's what I'm asking for here. And until you do that, this is meaningless criticism. This is you just spouting. So again, I've provided citations for everything that I've talked through thus far, to the statement of facts, to the indictment, to the crime that Trump was charged with, to the statute of limitations. Let's see you bring some ammunition here, because you're claiming that this was misconduct. Great, prove it.
Yeah, unless the prosecutor was lying, I don't know how you can find intent of any crime.
Gotcha. So
it doesn't make any sense.
Let's see.
I've read the actual facts, like whatever evidences they actually talked about, whatever statements.
We don't have the full factual record.
You cannot actually look at and pertain intent from any of the statements that I was reading at all. It's just them making assertions.
Is it or isn't it true that we don't have the full factual record?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so let's be clear, right? I'm talking about the legal claim here, all right? You said that, they need to demonstrate this other piece of the intent. Great. Go ahead and pony up with that information, and we can discuss it. But until that point,
I'll give you, for example, I defeated the FICA claim. For example, it's not a FICA violation if I'm actually trying to defend my own honor and my own name. And hey, let me finish, please.
To be clear, you just said that.
I'm trying to keep my wife married to me. So, of course, I'm going to pay hush money and keep it hidden, of course.
Right, but to be clear, you actually didn't demonstrate that would be a defense to that claim. You kind of just said, well, you don't know, so it must be.
What I'm proving is you cannot
We
actually
didn't prove
prove
anything.
intent of a crime. You can't actually
Even if
prove
it
intent
was-
of that crime
That's
unless
not on us.
that's
It was for
actually
the
been
jury to
spoken about.
decide. It was for the jury to decide. We don't. It's not on us to prove
Yeah,
that.
but how do you
The
guys
jury
trust this?
decided
Okay,
that
okay,
it
but
was,
I
there
don't
was
trust
sufficient
any
evidence.
juries then.
They
I don't trust any juries,
Okay, that's
especially if
fine.
all the juries
That's
gonna
fine.
look
You
like
don't have to
enormous.
trust the jury. You don't have to agree with the system that
But this
we
is
live
bullshit,
under
man.
because
All your
it's
viewers
not
can
up
see
to
through it.
us. It's not up to us. It's not up to us. We are
Watch,
fucking
watch,
powerless.
enormous is gonna fail,
We
and
are
my
adrift in
actual
the wind
what
here
I
in
claimed is gonna
the
come up.
mercy of the system.
My claim is the instruction to the jury was is going to cause a mistrial potentially. It's going to be grounds for appeal. Also, the instruction just was absolutely kind of criminal, to be honest with you, to find the guy. I get it. You can find the guy criminal of falsifying the documents, but you don't actually have to find him criminal of anything else. You can still say he is a criminal, though. This is absolutely disgusting. I've never seen anything like that.
You need to show that there was intent to either aid, conceal, or commit the or commit the offense itself. So, in this case, and this is me kind of imagining what the prosecutor is probably saying, because again, we don't have the full record. But what the prosecutor probably stood up and said in the court is, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will see evidence today that Donald Trump, through Michael Cohen, engaged in a scheme to conceal the commission of XYZ crimes, including the FICA crime. That is almost certainly what took place. But again, we don't have the full record of the presentations.
Talking about the falsifying business records one, the first degree, the intent to defraud must include an intent to commit another crime.
Right, but again, the jurors.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm sorry. I don't want it to be too much of a dog pile here, but I also feel like there is some genuine credence to this idea that all of this is being hyped up by our State Department controlled media so that they can prop up what is otherwise a walking corpse and make him look better. It's a fucking dog and bony show. This felony conviction is not going to do anything to him. It's literally just to make Biden look better. That's it. That's the only reason why they would do this. This entire fucking thing could have waited until he was not at risk of becoming president, and then you could have fucking waited. You could have waited until he loses the fucking election to bring these charges. I'm pretty sure that would still be within the statute of limitations.
No, they're trying to make him a felon so the next charges can land harder.
But you're worried that he's going to win the election, so you want to press the charges now. I think that it was obviously a politically motivated conviction. I think it was a time for them to do it in an election year. Sorry if I'm breaking up a little bit, but this was obviously just a really good way for CNN to make Biden look marginally better than the fucking skeleton that he obviously is.
I'll hear Enormous's opinion on this. What do you think, Enormous? That I like that claim that basically this is the media apparatus pushing this just so because they cannot win with Biden in any way. They want to make Trump look bad, but really they're just making Trump look good here.
Yeah, so my main gripe with this is that I think it assumes that we're a little bit more organized than we are politically.
Fair.
Here's the thing, is that politics is not a monolith of parties. It may seem like that from the outside, but what you are dealing with is an individual prosecutor in New York. You are not dealing with the Department of Justice. You are not dealing with, this is not Biden's DOJ. In fact, they even turned down an opportunity to take the case. If we want to talk about politically motivated, Biden's DOJ could have easily gone after this, but they elected to leave this the fuck alone. This was a prosecutor in New York. I think saying, oh, this is a politically motivated thing organized by a monolith of parties, I think it's really just the sort of grand conspiratorial thinking that doesn't line up with how the real world works. I just don't think that it was realistically that organized.
That's fair. That's fair. I am terminally online. But
You're
I'm sure
speculating
Manar
too.
would come out and tell us that there's definite political bias and this prosecutor has a history of being
No.
Well, it's a very different claim than whether or not it's top-down conspiracy.
He has no idea. He just speculates. All Enormous does is speculate.
Right, but
Enormous,
Steve, hold on, to be clear, the only thing that we're talking about right now is speculating as to whether or not this is politically motivated. This is a discussion of speculation right now. When we're talking about facts, I am bringing facts to the table. And to be clear, I've given all my citations have
I
to do it again.
challenge you to fact check this. Okay, fact check this. Again, let's go back to the FICA part because I knew you were trying to run away from this. Under federal law, a third party's payment of a candidate's expenses is deemed to be a contribution to the candidate unless the payment would have been made irrespective of the candidacy. How can you claim that this is actually enough to commit intent FICA when all I have to do is state that I was trying to
totally bragged about fucking Stormy Daniels.
We don't have the factual record. We don't know.
Let me finish. Go ahead. How can you actually prove intent from that?
Gotcha. So I'm going to go back and say the same thing that I've said the entire time we've had this discussion. Go ahead and play it back. We've got the record here. The jury made the determination.
Yeah, the jury. Can you actually disagree with the jury? Are you allowed to do that?
I know that you get really frustrated when other people interrupt
who are you? I don't even know who the fuck you are.
If you can just let me get through a point, that'd be awesome.
You could be a liar. I don't even believe if you're a true lawyer or whatever you were talking about. I really don't believe.
So again, just to be like,
because you can't answer this specifically. I don't care about the jury. Answer me. You answer me. Let's act like the jury doesn't exist.
I'll get there.
Emperor,
I'll get there.
No, enormous. Someday. Act like the jury doesn't exist.
Someday. I'll
act like the jury doesn't exist. Go ahead, respond to this.
How many good ideas for what I can read while I wait to actually get a chance to get a word in?
Okay, why are you going to another debate topic? Debate this topic. Stop running away from. You are trying to say the jury was able to claim how can they do
I'll get here someday. Are you going to let me speak?
You started to go ad hominem, Manar. It wasn't our friend bringing up stuff out of nowhere. You were saying, I don't even know if you're a lawyer. They're not a lawyer. They are a student. Sorry.
No,
just trying to
but
back
you
on
want
the rails here. Back on the tracks.
Ad hominem. He's not a lawyer.
So do you want me to answer the question? Do you want me to answer the question? Because you seem really allergic when I started to respond.
Let me tell you what the question is. Under federal law, a third party's payment of a candidate's expenses is deemed to be a contribution to the candidate unless the payment would have been made irrespective of the candidacy. Trump, I'm sure. What is your claim there? How can you claim that he did not make it? How can you claim that he only made it for the candidacy? This is a woman that's charging him of an allegation that he won't even. He denies himself. How can you say he's only doing this for the candidacy?
So because he brags about everything.
But also, I want to answer this because this is directly to me. This is directly to me.
No, go ahead.
I don't need to prove that because it's not my position that he did do any of that.
Ability. No, because you have no ability.
Oh my God.
To be clear, again, it's because you are that he was doing it for his candidacy. Prove it, right? Just do it right now. You win this debate. Just do it right now. Because you are ascribing to me a position I don't hold. Again, I know it must be very difficult for you, but
the jurors found him that he had intention.
My position this entire time,
you agree with
if you want, has been that the legal theory here is sound and that the jurors made the determination.
Guys, you know what? You want to respond to this? Because if it actually
I responded to it. I just responded to it. No. You spent the whole time interrupting. I'm going to get through this. I'm sorry.
When he comes out, when the judgment comes out,
keep talking over you until I get a chance to get through the full response. Because you sat here and tried to talk over me for like 5 minutes. No.
I'm responding. No.
I'm going to finish.
Oh no. What happened? What the fuck just happened? I was straight up about to type moderators into the chat. What's going on? I'm so confused.
Well, Isaac did something. Isaac stepped in. Isaac, you're muted too.
Okay, guys. Jeez, take a breath. Okay, take a breath. We'll let Manar, you did get to speak, so it's only right that Pharmacy does get to respond, and then you can respond to what he said, how a debate should go, okay? I'm gonna mute you guys now.
Bro, he's been speaking, but he won't answer my question.
It's crazy.
Here, wait. Okay, Pharmacy, in respect, Manar, what is your question that you want answered?
Under federal law, he's acting like there's intent. It's clear as day there's intent. Okay, go ahead, prove it. Under federal law, third-party payment of a candidate expenses is deemed to be a contribution to the candidate unless the payment would have been made irrespective of the candidacy. Try to prove that this was made irrespective of the candidacy. Go ahead.
So again, this is not my position.
Oh, no. What's your position then? You just said that he is guilty of these charges, right?
No, my position is that it sits on a sound legal theory and that the jury made their determination.
Okay, but if I'm destroying your first intention, I can destroy your second one, and I'm going to destroy your third intention as well on all three charges. If I destroy your first intention, which is actually not a true intention,
we lost some moderator. We lost some moderator, folks.
So intent is a
I'm
factual
fucking enormous.
determination.
I'm fucking enormous. Honestly, I'm fucking him up.
Are you using a
I'm
condom at
fucking you up.
least?
I'm fucking you. I'm fucking you right now.
Okay, yeah. So to be clear again,
Maybe it's consensual though. Have you thought that maybe it's consensual?
Yeah, he's
intent
liking
is
it. He
a
loves it.
intent is a factual determination. I have never taken the position that intent has been proven in this case. The position that I took is that the jury has made their determination as to the facts and that it rests upon a sound legal theory.
Can I respond?
Also, wait.
Yeah, no,
On top
can
of
I
that,
respond?
wait, Manar. Yeah, I'll let you respond. But on top of that, Manar, can't you also acknowledge that you don't have to show, like, for a person to be convicted of murder, you don't have to show them holding the knife with blood. You just have to show the mens rea.
Yeah,
But yeah, respond to what he
this
said.
is a specific one. This is one you can actually commit. You can actually have somebody send you money. You can commit this murder if you can prove that this was under self-defense, for example. This is why this is very important. This intention claim is very important. He keeps forcing it upon us. He says, no, there is no intention. But how do you even agree with the jury? The jury was supposed to accept an intention and force an intention. If you agree with the jury, then you have to agree that there was an intention that they actually claimed that there is of a crime. You don't even know the intention. You don't know the crime. You don't know nothing. You're a loser.
I'm not
stay excluded forever.
I'm not agreeing with the jury. I'm deferring to them. There's a difference between those two things.
Yeah, when you defer, what does that mean? That means you accept their authority.
It means, in this case, yes, because
That means you accept the claim that they found intent. That means you accept the claim that they found intent of a crime. That means you accept the claim that they found intent of a crime. You just have no idea what the intent is or the crime is, right?
They are.
Go ahead. I fucked you. I
in this case.
I fucked you.
Listen,
I literally
all right.
fucked you,
I hope you don't have any
bro.
STDs,
You know I'm fucking you
man.
right now.
But again,
I literally fucked you, bro.
My position has been super
And
clear
that's
this whole
only the
time.
FICA charge. I haven't even gotten to the next one.
All you can do is aggressively misstate my position.
Well, you don't even know what the intent actually called. You have no idea what the intent was, and you have no idea what the charge is, what the crime is.
I'm sure there's more interesting stuff to talk about further ahead.
I'm sure there is.
He still wants, he doesn't know the intent or the crime is, but he still wants to defer to the jury.
I'm sure there are more interesting
lawyers that you guys put your trust in, and I'm supposed to trust this shit.
I'm sure there are more interesting things to talk about than your aggressive misstatements of my position, and then pretending that beating those positions is some kind
as
of
if deferring to the jury doesn't actually mean that you accept their interpretation of the intention of that crime. As if it doesn't. As if it doesn't. If you accept that the jury was, if you defer to the jury, that means you accept their guilty verdict. How can you accept their guilty verdict without accepting that they came with an intention?
Because if pharmacy was to say I don't accept that, then pharmacy would be rebelling against the entire criminal justice system.
Yeah, he's a loser. He doesn't care about the fact of the matter.
We don't have
F-15s.
We don't own the means to compete with the criminal justice system.
You have no backbone.
I am deferring. I'm deferring to the jury.
He has no idea what he's deferring to them for. He has no idea what he's deferring to.
We don't have the factual record.
He doesn't know the crime. He has nothing.
I'll get there.
He's deferring to the jury, but he doesn't defer on what.
I am deferring. I am deferring to the jury because they have a better situation to understand the facts than we do, because they have seen the full factual presentations, they heard the witnesses in court, they went over the testimony, they were able to assess the credibility of the witnesses. We have piecemeal record delivered to us from reporters in the room, not all of which were experts and not all of which were necessarily approaching the legal theory in the same way that the prosecutors and the defense attorneys were.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, again,
you're a lawyer.
This is a shout out to Rumble viewers. I have more viewers on Rumble than Twitch right now. Thank you guys for being here.
You are chest puffing.
I love the Rumble viewers.
You are chest puffing and fighting a straw man. That is all you're doing. You are chest puffing and fighting a straw man. I'm not going to engage with you on a straw man version of my beliefs. I'm just not going to do that.
I'm actually exposing you. That's all I'm doing. I'm exposing you.
Okay.
Yeah, you have nothing. You defer to the jury, but you don't know what the jury is talking about. You don't know anything. You claim that you know anything about this crime. You don't know anything.
Everything that I've talked about today, I have provided factual or have provided legal citations for.
Yeah, by reading the same document I was reading.
Again, though, but you were misinterpreting those things, and I was using them correctly.
No, you're misinterpreting it.
Again, but no.
You have an excellent attorney. To be fair, that would be great for I'm just saying. What is the group of right-wing attorneys that decide all of our laws? What are they called?
He has to do is prove the intent. He can't. He's right into this case. He's acting like he can't actually give you the argument that the prosecutor.
I have never claimed that I was going to be able to prove the intent here
Yeah,
today.
but you
Again,
accepted
because
the jury's
what I'm
decision.
here what I'm here to do is discuss the legal issues, and to the extent that the jury made factual findings, again, they had a better position to the facts. They saw all of the testimony. They saw all of the exhibits. They
Okay.
were able to assess the credibility of the witnesses. You are able to do
Okay.
exactly 0% of that.
You literally
If
cannot
I
provide any
worked
intent at
in
all for the future case. So
aerospace,
let's move on to
if
the next
I
case.
worked for Boeing, if I worked in aerospace, I would probably defer to the experts who said, "Hey, there are some defects in these
Yeah, but
planes
if
that
your
are killing
engineer is
people."
telling you use a fastener 7 and you know that fastener 7 doesn't go in here and you need to make an MRB and change the whole fucking fastener, you're not going to be able to accept that. You're going to go to the engineer and tell him, hey, you made a mistake. You're going to send him another MRB and he's going to be
Well,
like,
I
holy
certainly
shit, you're
hope
right. I
so,
made a
but
mistake.
Boeing might shoot you in your head. I certainly
No,
hope you're
engineers,
doing it.
they
They might
you know
kill
what
you, brother.
MRB is?
Actually, this is a perfect analogy for the situation that we're in, because in your example, you're a person with an understanding of the facts that allows you to make that determination. Everybody
Right,
in
and you
this
that's the
have
point.
no
That's
idea of
my
any
point.
facts. You actually have no
everybody
knowledge.
everybody in
You
this
actually have
call
no knowledge of the facts.
everybody who
Manar,
is
that's
in
our
this
position.
call,
We're acknowledging that we don't have the factual record. That's why we're
Then why is
deferring
he
to the
saying
jury,
that?
because they do have the factual record.
Only
not
difference is I
only
won't accept anything
we
immediately,
do
like
not,
and blindly, just because I accept the judicial
but
system. I won't accept
but
that blindly.
neither
That's
but
only the difference
neither
between
have
me and
but neither have I. What I have
yeah,
discussed is the
you have
legal
actually
theory,
you
and
defer to
I
the
am
jury. No, no,
deferring
you actually
and
have.
I'm
You
deferring
defer
to
to
the
no, no, no,
jury. I
I
am
got him, I
deferring to
got
the
him.
jury.
You
I
defer
am
to the jury
deferring to the
without any
jury.
evidence. You have
I
no knowledge of
am
any.
deferring to the jury to the extent that they had a better position to the facts as we know them right now. That has been my position from the beginning. I have not changed.
Yeah,
Again,
but you won't
you
even
are
go talk
fighting
to
a
the
straw
facts of the
man
matter.
here.
You won't even dive into a little bit of
Listen,
the
this
matter.
is
You only
between
look at
you
what
and God
the
now.
jury
You're
is.
shadowboxing.
And you honestly, you're gonna lose your job very quickly.
I will let you. You can go ahead and listen. I'm top 15% of my class. You can keep talking. Okay,
You're gonna
that's
lose.
on
You're
you.
gonna lose. You're a fucking Democrat.
That's between you and God. But as far as I'm concerned,
Okay,
I've
proof
made my
intent.
position very clear here. I've
On,
already told you
by the
I'm
way,
not going to do that because
by the
I
way,
don't
guys, I'm
have the
only
full
looking at the
factual
future
record.
case. I haven't even gotten to the tax fraud violation, which I'm sure they can prove intent there, and I haven't even gotten to the next violation. I'm actually still surprised how the defense actually lost this case, but I understand because they didn't have. They didn't know what they were actually defending against. I totally
No.
understand. They thought they're defending against 34 misdemeanors. Turns out they're fucking felonies, and they were
No,
switched off.
they were felonies from the beginning. We could see
Yeah.
it in the indictment. They charged 175.10, which is a first degree felony, class C in the state of New York. This is the same tired, boring.
Yeah, but no, the
that
defense actually
is
said
the
that. The defense
same.
said, no. Let me finish, please. The defense said that it's on
Oh,
the.
you interrupt me and then say, "Let me finish."
Let me finish. They said it's on the prosecution for them to prove the crime, so we didn't actually believe we needed to provide any testimony or any evidence, and so
They're
that's
wrong.
why they actually
They
failed. It's not
misplayed.
because they didn't want to. They can't actually prosecute. They could have bring in a lot of witnesses. They could have tried to attack witnesses. They didn't. They actually refused to do
But-
so. They tried to hold off till either till they know a little bit more about the case or till the appeal. That's what my understanding.
They took a risky gamble and lost.
Okay, but that's,
they picked an unsound legal strategy and then lost.
no. That's actually the regular prosecute because the prosecutor.
No. Actually, it's not the regular way that we do things. In fact,
that is.
hold on. I'm gonna recommend you a book.
No, let me finish.
You can't do it. I'm sorry. So let me recommend you a book.
You don't even know what I'm talking about. The prosecutor.
Trying Cases to Win by Kyle Hebert. They talk about this exact thing. Prosecutors do have the burden of proof. You're absolutely right. But it is beneficial. But it is all right. Trying Cases to Win by Kyle Hebert. I'll give you the exact book in a moment. We're recommending,
and you don't really have to present.
When we discuss,
testimony.
You do not have to, but it is an unsound legal strategy oftentimes. And what I'm recommending to you,
my understanding is actually the better.
I'm going to get through a statement. It's going to happen. Trying Cases to Win by Kyle Hebert. They discuss in depth. It's one thing to allow the person with the burden of proof to make their case and then say, well, they haven't done it. But it is more effective to present a version of facts with your own witnesses and your own evidence, oftentimes, to say, what the prosecution has said is untrue, or to actually combat its narrative in some way, rather than just saying, well, I'm not going to put on any witnesses. But sometimes that's all you can do in criminal trials.
Let me ask you this. Let's say a great jury, and this is speculation.
Sorry, there is an in one volume set for Kyle Hebert's Trying Cases to Win. There's an in one volume set.
I want to ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Era. Oh, okay. So this is my question. Let's say the Fulton County case has been halted, right? Let's say before it was halted, the jury pushed a guilty verdict. You see how just because the jury pushed a guilty verdict doesn't mean that the actual trial is perfect and there's no problems with it. You could find problems, like for example, the Fulton County. There's many problems in there, so we can actually assume that it actually will lose the appeals, not on the legal matter, it's on the mistrial matter. That's my whole argument here. It's not necessary that they actually have to lose in the legal matter. There was some problems when it came to the actual courtroom. There was some problems when it came to the prosecution, and that you have to allow them to appeal. The idea that 98 to 99% of all, if not 100% of all criminal sentences are appealed. So let's allow the appeal before we start saying he's guilty. When I sit here and I test you guys have no actual evidence on what he's guilty. You have no ability to intent to derive intent.
But it's
you
so
actually
cool.
know the
It's so
crime is
cool that he's
guilty.
guilty.
Tax evasion or
It's so dope.
this is ridiculous,
He
guys.
could do a rap now. He could do
Let
a
me just
full
finish my
album.
point,
He
guys.
could do a whole
So you
rap
stop
album.
embarrassing yourself. Stop acting like he's guilty until this appeal is going through, because it seems like every time he sends an appeal through, it's actually getting stayed and it's shutting down the whole case.
So, okay. One, a stay, as we talked about before, is not evidence that the appeal itself is meritorious and going to take out the case.
I mean, unlikely.
Okay, again, you're trying to interrupt me. I have tried my best to let you talk, right? But you just
Go ahead.
okay. Thank you. You say it's highly likely. You're basing that on nothing. I'm sorry. It's just like it's maybe stays happen. Stays happen for
scholars are saying they couldn't believe
Didn't you just say you were gonna let me finish?
Let me say did they believe?
Did you not just say you were gonna let me finish? No, I'm not going to ask one thing. You're gonna let me finish.
The legal scholars accept.
You're gonna let me finish, and
The
then
legal scholars.
you can ask your follow-up question.
No, you're lying.
No,
The legal
it's
scholars
okay.
didn't even expect
It's
it.
okay. I'll.
No, you're
Can
lying.
you let
They
me?
didn't
Can you let me?
expect it.
Can you let me
Look, it was
finish?
expected that they
Is
were
it
going to
possible?
appeal for a stay and
Can
ask for a stay, but they
you
never expected the
let
judge to give a stay.
me
Go ahead.
finish. Oh, perfect. Sorry, I was confused there. I thought that you were an enormous pharmacy for a second.
I'm not going to let you lie. Not in front of me. Maybe in front of Pierre, you can lie.
So again, the fact that the case was stayed is not necessarily evidence that there is a meritorious appeal inbound. That's not the standard for having a stay in a case, and somebody opining that that's possible, you can certainly say, well, there's an attorney who said that this might be the case, and sure, you're welcome to take their opinion. But what I'm going to say is that it is not necessarily the case. And as it pertains to, again, you aggressively misstating my position. Earlier, just a few moments ago, you said that I was holding the position that Trump is guilty. I am only. I swear to God, can I finish? Is it possible? Are you allergic to letting people finish full statements? Is that just something that you have an issue with?
You're rather long-spoken. You are rather long-spoken.
I am, in fairness. No, voice crack. In fairness, I am long-spoken. That was a really bad voice crack. In fairness, I am long-spoken, but I am trying to address points that were made directly against me, so I have to get through each one of them. So I'm just trying to be thorough here. You said that my position was that Trump is guilty. That is not my position. I will, again, go back to what I said from the beginning. My position is that it rests upon a sound legal theory, and for the time being, I am deferring to the jury because of the fact that we do not have the information by which to make the judgments that the jury did.
One last question, Pharmacy. Do you believe that this could be actually appealed, and this could be granted this appeal, and this whole case could be faltered?
I don't see any great grounds for appeal on my end, but maybe somebody who's more creative and has had a lot more experience as an actual attorney doing this work for some time will come up with something that'll work. I'm completely open to that possibility.
You don't see any grounds in the legal matter?
As it currently stands, from the research that I've done, everything here seems fine. But again, I'm not an expert. I've got a single year of 3 years of law school under my belt. I've done a lot of civil practice as a paralegal and now as a law clerk. But the criminal arena, though I did well in the classes related to the criminal work, it's still sort of outside of the scope of the practical work that I've done in my life. So I'm completely open to the possibility that there's more.
I really think that this question was kind of misleading. The question was a little bit off. The question isn't really like, do you think that the appeal is meritorious? The question is, do you think that dude has a right to an appeal? Everybody has a right to an appeal.
In terms of right to appeal? I mean, it depends. I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
like,
there
no,
there are
no,
appeals by
no,
leave and
you
appeals
have
by right.
You have the right. You have the right to appeal, but that doesn't mean that anybody has to fucking listen to it.
Yeah, but
People have to look
99
at
to
it.
100% of criminal cases get an appeal, and that's
Exactly.
if
So
only
he
if
has
you
the
grant
right.
appeals do
He
I
has the
believe in the
right.
judicial system. If you don't grant
What
appeals,
do
and
you
if you
mean?
only grant one appeal, I will never believe in the
He
judicial
has
system.
the okay, but he doesn't have the right to have his appeal granted. He has the right to file for one. That's the thing. That's the thing. That's the flaw in your question. He doesn't have the right to have his appeal granted. He has the right to file for an appeal. That's it.
Yeah, okay, I agree with
That's
you.
it.
But if they don't grant it to him,
That's like
this is going to be a big problem. We need to hear an appeal, because this is a very contentious issue that I don't know. In New York, is all crimes like, are they all enacted in this
I
way
keep talking my
enormous that
Rumble viewers
the
are really
jury
not.
just has to
I'm starting
find
to think they're
you
bots. No
in
one has said
intent of a
anything.
crime, like this
Rumble viewers, if you will,
175.12
say something right now.
penal code is actually
Just
the
kidding. I appreciate
natural
the
order of
lurkers
things
as
in
well.
New York.
The
I
juries
love my
need
it's
to
gonna
chat
be a
find.
problem for you. I'm just gonna
Or
look
is this
forward
only
to
for
seeing
grand
you
jury?
on
No,
Jan
I want to
6th.
understand. Is this a grand jury thing only?
Sorry, I don't
Just
understand
shout
the
me out
question.
on Jan 6th.
When it comes to the penal code 175.12, to find the falsification to only become a felony once it's attached to another crime, is this only a grand jury kind of like a law that applies only for a grand jury, or is it applying for every New York case ever?
I'm still. Are you asking if 175 can be charged to anybody in New York, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is yes. And in fact, I think, let me pull up this up on Lexis real quick. I can tell you exactly how many cases mention 175.10 in the state of New York.
Yeah, I would like to hear that. Yeah, I want to see if
175.10.
they all use intent and non-existing crimes to come up with. Like, I want to see if anyone else put 3 different crimes and they're like, oh yeah, I can find intent to any of them.
New York.
We are a little bit over on time, so we'll try to get to after. I feel like this is a good like wrapping. So
Sorry about that, Rhodes. I'll apologize.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Okay, so let's see here. There are 251 cases in the history of the state of New York that mention 175.10.
Can you ping them here?
Every single case?
You said how many?
251.
Source them all.
Send me your link that you're looking at.
It's on Lexis. You can't access it. It's a piece of legal research software that is a subscription service.
That's how you guys do your
Ain't
research.
that fucked up? Ain't that fucked up? Yeah, it's expensive Google. It's literally expensive.
It is very expensive. My law school pays for it, so that's the only reason I have it.
Okay, man, give me one of these
It's been on almost
one of
2
the
hours.
Most closest,
just
criminal
2 hours
like,
and
can
1
you give me a
minute.
name of a crime or of a court or of a trial that actually is really close to this, tied close to it?
I mean, it's 251 results. It would take a lot of time for me to parse every
no
single
worries. I just wanted to look at the other. Give me just one name of any other one. Give me the name of one trial.
Sure. Let me see if I can.
In random, we'll see. Look at it.
Well, the first one that I clicked on is People v. Trump. Hold on. So actually, we have
Parazoecial.
some pieces of opinion here that might give some insight. We might be able
to pick out one of these, and then you cherry pick the problems with it. You realize that 1 out of 251 cases is hardly exemplary of what you're trying to say. It would take a really long analysis of this statute's use.
I think he just wants to see them use the intent. I think he just wants to see how the intent factors in. I think is what he wants.
Yeah, I want to look at how jury looks at intent exactly. I want to see how they actually prove it to see if it's actually connected in any way. Because I don't know if you can prove intent, at least not for the FICA case. I don't know about the other one. I haven't even looked at those yet. But to be honest with you, according to the actual wording of the instruction, it doesn't seem like they actually have intent. Because it could be done irrespective of the candidacy. You know what I mean? Unless it's made irrespective of the candidacy. So if Trump, I'm sure their lawyers were like, no, he actually didn't do it for the candidacy in any way. I'm sure it was around that time. You guys, that's what you're claiming. But his wife was gonna leave him. His sons were about to be fired from the I don't know, business or something. I don't know, some bullshit.
Okay,
we can say. Yeah, he could have made a million arguments. I'm actually in disbelief that they actually. So I'm actually don't think they actually got that intent from the FICA cases in any way. So maybe the crimes were the tax fraud or the crime of.
So as to FICA, the court had this to say: This court finds that there was legally sufficient evidence presented to the grand jury of the defendant's intent to violate FICA. It is a crime under FICA for any person to make contributions to a candidate seeking election to federal office, and his authorized political committees, which exceeds $2,009 during a single calendar year. It also establishes a let's see, I think that's $25,000 limit on contribution made by corporations. No, there's a separate part of this. This is from the full opinion, so it's a little bit less abridged than the jury instructions. The jury instructions, they probably only included the aspects that they thought were very, very relevant to the evidence presented at trial.
Okay.
So, and for this, they are here. Okay. Indeed, Cohen pled guilty to violating FICA and served a prison term as a result of his involvement in this scheme. Likewise, the Federal Election Commission found that AMI and Pecker also violated FICA, which is a different statute, as a result of these payments. Evidence presented to the grand jury that the defendants discussed the above plan with payment to Daniels is legally sufficient to establish that Cohen and then legally sufficient to establish the Cohen and then reimbursed Cohen for his payment to Daniels is legally sufficient to establish the requisite intent to commit another crime. So in this case, what they're saying is testimony, and this is why I said we don't have the full factual record, right? Because now we know that there is testimony as to this, right? Evidence presented to the grand jury that the defendant discussed the above plan to Daniels is legally sufficient to establish. That's what they're talking about in terms of establishing the intent for FICA.
So they're saying Michael Cohen paying those payments is not illegal. It's that he discussed it with Trump to make those payments. That's the illegal part. That's the intent.
Well, no, we're talking just about the intent right now. This is what you wanted to talk about. So I'm talking about what they considered legally sufficient to demonstrate the intent to violate FICA.
Yeah, it was the conversation between Trump and Cohen about Stormy Daniels.
Yes.
And then because after that, I guess Cohen started paying Stormy Daniels. That's how they came up with this intent.
Well, again, we don't have the full factual record, but if somebody talks about doing something with somebody and then that other person goes and does it, I don't know, that seems like a pretty strong line between intent. But again, I don't have the full factual record, so it's tough for me to really say.
And now let's go to closing statement. Alright, so...
Wait. We can't even talk if Biden's better than Trump in any way? Or Trump is better than...
I mean, if we want to switch to that...
Listen,
here another 2 hours.
Listen, I'm gonna go out and make some food for my girlfriend.
Live your life, man. Yeah, live your life.
But
Run.
I do want to at least give a brief closing on this. We heard all about how I was getting fucked. We heard in great detail about being fucked. But we found authority on the intent. We found authority on the intent. They said that there was a conversation that was sufficient to demonstrate the intent.
Was a liar.
So again, all of this is coping and seething. There were no factual citations. There were no legal citations by my opponent today. There was nothing that was actually in support of his point other than his own incredulity at the facts and the law here. I really don't think there's much more to be said. This is, I think, pretty open and shut on the legal issue, but there will be attorneys appealing, so maybe we'll see whether or not that's true. And on the factual issues, we don't have all the facts, but the ones that we do have, the court seemed to find that they were sufficient to establish the charge, to at least allow them to be present and heard on the courtroom floor. Whether or not they were sufficient to actually convict on is something that we'll eventually find out when the appeals case happens, I imagine. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. You guys take it easy.
You too, man.
You too, yep.
Don't, you live your life, man. Run out of here. This went a little different, but I will say, it did go very different because Manar was supposed to have people who did agree with him, but we had 2 people drop right before. So unfortunately, Manar didn't, like up in a 1v4 type thing. But yeah, so if Manar,
Farrah helped me a lot. Thank you, Farrah.
If you want to give your side of it, Manar, to close.
Okay, so this is what I'm gonna say. Okay, I'll give it to you. It looks like, legally speaking, New York, they actually were able to charge him under legal pretenses that were actually accurate. 175.12 is a very scary penal code that only exists in New York, and it's used to charge before. And the intent, when he presented it, the Michael Cohen, it seems like that does make sense. That would make sense why the FICA intent would be linked to a crime. So I will give it to you. Let's say I will link it. I'll say that Trump did do a misdemeanor, and I'll say, let's say you can link it to a crime. In my opinion, I still don't even believe that this is a crime that needed to even reach a level of getting prosecution, let alone a felony deal. I get it. I get it. You want to be, I know, non-biased, I guess, and you guys want to prosecute people. But if that's true, if you want to start prosecuting your presidents over falsification of crime, falsification of criminal records, then get ready to prosecute every single president and every single thing that they've ever committed. This is insane. You're going to prosecute Bill Clinton next and Hillary Clinton next, and with Saudi Arabia deals, you're going to prosecute every single president that's ever been connected to anything. And this is why, I actually would be. I would actually argue that this is going to create a very scary pretense that's going to change America completely. So even though they did legally speaking, and that's why now I understand Trump wanted to move the jurisdiction of the trial to away from New York, because New York is very scary. It seems like this is the only penal code that exists in New York. So, but because of that, them being successful in doing this is going to set a precedent that you can start basically suing your political opponent in any way, shape, or form matter, and you can go ahead and pick jurisdictions and force them upon the opponent, and you're going to get your guilty trials. So in that case, I'm not going to agree. I wish they actually got him on something huge like assassination attempt, actually selling, for example, national security for apparatus information to foreign crime. You know what I mean? A treasonous crime, something of an actual stature that deserves to be attacked and condemned. Him falsifying credits just so he can keep his name nice and happy in front of his wife, and trying to hide everything from his parents and or from his kids and his wife is just not enough. And it's just very, very shady, especially when we see all these other presidents like Bill Clinton. Every single president has a sexual charge rallied against him. Are you going to now go sue Biden now because he touched Tara Reid? Anyways, I digress. I'm interested in your opinions. I will give it to you. Legally speaking, New York got him. But goddamn, man, you guys just set a precedent that is about to change your world.
Okay, and I did see you say, Manar, that you would like to do the Biden versus Trump, which I do think is going to be a very big one. But I am saving that one for after the June 27th debate. The idea for that one is I want it to be so after that debate, we do a panel on here for Biden versus Trump, because you would be, obviously, you funnel all the viewers from people that were watching the debates into the Twitch. It just makes a lot of sense.
You should do a watch party. You should do a watch party and include us.
I mean, I
think that's the plan. Yeah. I think we're all going to be doing that.
I think all of us will be.
I'm not doing my own watch party, but we should gather together at some point.
Even though I strongly think, listen, I want RFK there. I'm fighting for it. Okay, I don't like him at all, but I need him there.
I just don't want him there for his voice. That's all.
He deserves to be there. I might not agree.
Powerful.
Exactly.
The would be so good.
You would have the brainworms, the felon, and the old man. Okay.
I can't believe it, man. It shows you the apparatus of the political system in America. It's so great. A mentally ill person. Anyways, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna head out, guys. I don't know how much.
Wait, Isaac. I want to ask one thing, since I know you're familiar with the Georgia RICO case. The Georgia RICO case is the one I think Trump is appealing right now because he said he was acting like in the capacity of the president, right?
Are you talking about the Georgia RICO one? Is the yes,
the Fulton card.
So that's the fake electors. No. So like,
yeah, this is the elector scheme.
One of the arguments.
That one they gave him a stay on. That.
I know exactly where you're gonna go, and I can answer it. So where they're trying to go is they're trying to say that the reason he was trying to install fake electors was because he knew the election was going to be rigged, and the only way he could fight against the rigging was to buy himself enough time to show the rigging. So that's what we were seeing. So my understanding is there was a court case where basically Trump was arguing that he shouldn't be charged for it because he was like acting as the capacity of the president. And then that got taken to the Supreme Court. Yes, we were waiting on that one.
Okay, yeah.
That is one of them. So the argument isn't that. So that argument isn't for the electors. That's for the January 6th actions itself. So that's for the him calling Mike Pence saying, you need to stop the election. You need to do this. He wasn't doing that to overthrow the election. He was doing that to protect the election. Is his claim? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what nice. I was going to talk about that with Manar. Like the president set here should be that you are able to prosecute presidents for crimes that they committed while not acting in the official capacity as the president. But for crimes they committed or potentially committed as acting in the official capacity of the president. probably should not sit the president.
No, this is what the president's here. The president's here. You can actually try legally a president, an ex-president that's in the middle of his election cycle right now, and right before the election, a couple of months before the elections. That's the actual president that this is setting that you can put ex-presidents on trial for cases that happened after their presidency, or even during their presidency, during their actual election cycle. That's insane.
I mean, if the president committed a crime, don't you feel like it's fair that he is put on trial for that crime, even if it happens to be election
but what
season?
you're doing is you're setting a precedence to politically, to try your political opposition. That's what.
Wouldn't
so
the
like Donald
opposite
Trump
president
running
be?
on locking up Hillary, that wasn't that him doing that?
So
The president that you're afraid of.
I already dealt with this. So the Hillary claims lock her up only came after Hillary started saying that he's a criminal. He was
Because he wouldn't release
he
his
was
taxes,
interfering with elections.
which he
with
wasn't
Russia.
doing.
No. She claimed that he was an election interferer, stuff like that. That's when he started saying, "No, do you even know what I've been doing with Hillary?
Russia,
I'm the one that paid Hillary everything." That's when it came out. And you should lock her up.
All right,
the
I
Russiagate
just want to
claim-
give my closing statements really quick
Okay.
because I gotta go as well. It's 20 minutes overtime here.
True.
I just wanted to say that I think a lot of great points were made today. I think we established some solidarity even between the differing opinions here. And fuck Biden, fuck Trump. This election cycle sucks. America's political system sucks so bad. And the whole like butting heads today was a great example of how, no, this shit isn't working. This whole fucking system isn't working. Capitalism. Fuck this.
Yeah, but do you think
that's my
socialism is going to
just a small
we have
response. I know.
the leftist doomer
Socialism,
closing
fuck
statement.
no. I'm talking about red ass China coming over here and saving us. All right, deuce.
Peace out.
All right, guys, I'll give it to you. Look, man.
I really
The
wanted to say that
problem
Nonfon was a big capitalist. I didn't get to say that. It would have been so good.
Oh yeah,
Actually,
well I
like
did say
free market.
it's the classic leftist doomer closing statement. I'm assuming I'll talk to them later
wants
more.
China? He should be legally charged. No, I'm kidding.
Who?
But
The person
no,
we were just
Nonfon.
talking. Do they stream?
Yes.
Oh
streaming
wait,
now,
I think I actually. Oh, they are.
Nonfon, I actually agree with you. I like the free market capitalism. I think the best system is a middle communism and capitalism.
What America
Listen,
is,
man, the
baby. A
problem
good
is-
mix.
A mixed market.
Boys, the
yeah.
problem is we were debating about legal claim that, man, the problem is legally speaking, I'm not that clear on the legal terms.
So I'll give you a thing. You're big. I even texted you this because I wanted you to combat this more. The claim that you should have been trying to make is that he could never get a fair trial because legally he's allowed a fair trial. So
Yeah.
so that's why I asked you the question. Like, do you think he even has the ability to get a fair trial? Because that's like the strongest case. Is that obviously everyone in New York is going to go in with the idea that he's guilty because New York is predominantly democratically biased. Democratic media pushes Trump bad, blah blah blah, criminal, right? So you could have made the case that you can't try him without what Nonfon said without a grand jury or without a lawyer. I mean, no, not without a lawyer, by a judge. By jury wasn't the right way to go about it. Is I think what you could claim.
Well,
But then the obvious counterclaim is that
Trump
they
had
wanted
the
that.
option to have a judge trial. I think there was that one case where he forgot to request a jury trial, so it was just heard by a judge.
I guess that was one of my arguments is if you're going to start, my closing statement, I guess, if you're going to start prosecuting your political opposition, it's just going to create a precedent that is going to destroy this.
True. That president.
I didn't link it. You're right. I should have linked it a little bit better. Man, the problem is, I'm not going to lie. You guys dogpiled the shit out of me. What the fuck?
I didn't listen. I moderated.
We
I
didn't
didn't
mean
even
to.
do
but-
True. Switch.
Yeah, I know. I literally, I think, did I not send it to you, Manar? I know I sent it to Noel. I was like, bro, I'm just going to moderate this. I can't,
Yeah.
in good conscience, actually try to debate this. That's why I just kept quiet on even
I tried to
times where
get
I knew
another pro-Trump person in here too, because I'm debating some guy on abortion in like a week, and he's a pro-Trump person, and I tried to get him on here too, but he wasn't able to.
Yeah, I feel you. Listen, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Don't worry. I guarantee you, Donald Trump will.
Because I mean,
The 27th panel should be really good because as you just heard, Zoe is very anti both sides. I think me and Manar have very different sides. Like, you're gonna have a lot of opinions. You might even have a fucking. I'll try to find a fucking pro RFK dude to throw in there. Okay, I'll guarantee you that one. I promise will actually not be as uneven and as skewed as this one was.
Yeah, bring me one Trump supporter, guy. I know it's hard to find them, but gosh darn, man.
Especially you have to also realize, Twitch is predominantly left-leaning. I should have went to like Rumble to find him. I bet I could on like Rumble.
You probably could, yeah.
Where's Nick Fuentes this time of year? Okay.
No, but yeah, man, this is good. This is good practice. Even if we lose, like it feels good to talk about these. These are legal issues. I see where my faults are in the legal understanding of your actual law.
Well, that's because you shouldn't argue legal. Yeah, you shouldn't argue. Coming from legal makes no sense because at least Trump's argument is that the entire like state's against him. So obviously the legal side is going to be okay because they're made by the state. Yeah.
And legally, it doesn't have to do with intuition or like it's counterintuitive. You know what I mean? It's actually insane. And legality is counterintuitive. So just because you can read something out loud doesn't mean you actually understand it. You have to.
And then there was a really weird point where I don't remember who it was. I know Nonfon even said the correct thing where they were like, "Well, the president should be treated as a normal person." No, they should not. You should not let the person be able to be under the same.
That was him. That was enormous.
Yeah, that was an interesting.
He wants presidents to be treated like.
I understand for like murder, we probably shouldn't allow the president to murder someone. But also, we should. Obama,
Yeah, that's why I put restriction. I think my answer was perfect. I said once he hits restrictions, that's fine. But before that, he needs to be like, there's restriction. You don't touch him.
You obviously have to caveat like personal and presidential operations, but that's such an interesting thing because like where do you draw the line at presidential? Like, let's say this dude was going to run as president, and then this person's like a communist. Could you make the claim that as an American, like protecting democracy, you did that thing? Like if that's a good let's say Bernie switched parties. Okay, he made the Communist Party. Okay, which many people want him to do, and then he ran. If Biden took him out and his claim was, well, he was protecting Americans and protecting democracy, I mean. There's a very interesting legal battle that would have.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's why we're in a very scary time. But it could be very interesting.
Yeah, man. You guys are insane. Like, honestly, this legal guy should be arguing against this. This is kind of crazy that he actually just defers to the jury.
I didn't say that.
Man, honestly, like as a legal scholar, I get it. Legally speaking, 175.12 legal code, it's hit. But as well, you have to look at it as a objective in within context. It's clear as day. This is a Democratic judge that's prosecuting him to the highest extent of the law. Won't allow him to get certain special recommendations like changing of jurisdiction, changing of jury, and stuff like that. So that's why I'm just saying like this. They should have. They need to look at it as a different level of a case than a regular level. But I guess this judicial system, they try their best to show that they are non-partial, so they're acting like everyone is getting non-partial treatment. Yes. But I think that's wrong. I think that's extremely scary.
Manar, do you think the judge is going to give Trump like the maximum punishment?
Yeah. What was that? So what would I believe? Like, what would I think about it?
Yeah, what do you think the judge... Well, I'm asking what you think the judge is going to sentence Trump to.
I think because this is his first offense, they're not going to actually sentence him except to maximum maybe a probation, but they're going to use this for their next guilty charge.
Okay.
Like, you know how when your first offense, you're fine, but the second and third offense, you're going to get screwed? That's what they're going to do. They're going to act like this is a third DUI. And no matter what the guilty charge was, this is why he has to appeal every single one of the cases, and he cannot let them win until he becomes a president, because if they stick one of these guilty charges on him, they're going to force at least one of these other three charges to stick as well, and that's just going to create a precedent. He's going to be forced to go to jail.
All right, that makes sense, I guess.
So yeah, my understanding is he won't go to jail unless this stacks, and that's why this is scary. If it stacks,
well, I think in theory the judge could give him jail time, but typically you don't give a person jail time for their first felony offense. I'm pretty sure it's.
What would you think about that first? If he gives him the 4 years, what would you think?
I don't know. I don't think I would probably not be in favor of it, just because I feel like at that point that probably would be a politically motivated decision, because most people probably wouldn't be given jail time for that. Also, that would complicate a ton of things, because then he'd be running for president from jail. Which would not be good.
It creates a lot of issues. He might actually have a case for election fraud, to be honest. But as well, he doesn't, because this judicial system is divided away from the legal branch, so executive branch. So sorry, the legal branch is divided away from the executive branch, which makes sense. They can't even connect them to one another and say that there's like an election interference, even if they put him in jail. I don't think they can, unless they can link the Democratic Party with this election interference. So they won't. Yeah, they might actually put him in jail, and he actually doesn't have a way to get out. Not even like an election fraud claim or nothing.
Have you
Anyways, interesting.
Well, just what I want to ask one quick thing. Have you followed the Israel stuff with Lebanon recently?
No, not really. What's happening?
Oh, well, Netanyahu dissolved his war cabinet. And then also, I think they may be making preparations to go to war with Lebanon as well, which would be interesting.
Yeah, so at the Lebanon front, I know there was a heavy attack on the Lebanon front. I know that Hezbollah is very, very strong right now, and they're throwing rockets into Israel and they're landing.
Yeah.
So I know it's getting a little bit tight, but I know they're tight in every way. Like the way Israel is setting up, they're setting up for the north, south, and east. Like they're going to Jordan. They're going to go try to battle with Syria and Lebanon, and they're also going to expand into Egypt. Like they're taking control of that whole area. So I think this is a normal thing they've expected.
What do you mean they're going to go in? Israel has made peace with Jordan and Egypt.
Yeah, but Israel right now, the way I'm seeing it, they're actually moving their ground. They're trying to gather more ground. So they're moving further to the east and more further to the north. That's why they're clashing with Lebanon and clashing with Syria.
They haven't made peace with Lebanon and Syria, but they have made peace with Egypt and Jordan.
So yeah, so for now, Jordan, they're still expanding through Jordan. They're actually they're expanding through Jordan in the west. So
Jordan doesn't control the West Bank anymore, though. Israel controls the West Bank. Jordan relinquishes control of the West Bank for peace, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So now so Israel has full authority over everything that exists within it. I think even the Julan Heights right now, according to itself, even though they look at it as occupied, they don't give the authority to Syria anymore. So Syria cannot go into Julan Heights, for example. They're going to get bombed out. But my understanding is they're expanding that even further. Like they're using Julan Heights so they can expand further into Syria. They're bombing into Damascus, actually, from the Julan Heights. My understanding is they're going into Lebanon, but it's very hard for them to get through Lebanon. And they're actually trying to expand through Jordan right now, like from that end. But I don't know, man. You have to understand that Israel is never going to stop expansion. Just like they said in 1947, that's all we need is the 54%, 45% of the land. Then they went and took 78. Just like after they took the 78, they went and reoccupied the Gaza and the West Bank.
I mean, that's after the Arabs rejected it, though. And then they gave up the Sinai for peace with Egypt as well.
Yeah, so they gave up the Sinai, and then they took over and illegally occupied Gaza, West Bank, and the Julan Heights. So it just still broke international law. You know what I mean? Because they actually had Resolution 242 forcing them to back off because they were breaking international law.
Well, 242 is complicated because one, and we've had disagreements about this before, but one, it's probably not legally binding. Two, it specifically says territories occupied, not the territories occupied, because the drafters of it specifically did not want Israel to withdraw from all the territories it occupied, just some of them. Israel has withdrawn from some of the territories occupied. And finally, it links Israeli withdrawal to Arab recognition of Israel and a just and lasting peace, which is why Israel withdrew from Egypt, from the Sinai, for a just and lasting peace with Egypt. And the way international law works, if you're breaking international law, your first obligation is to immediately cease the illegal thing that you're doing. So, if Israel's occupation was illegal,
law to commit a breaking of international law yourself.
You cannot use.
But anyways, you cannot say, because they committed international law, we're going to have to commit international law breaking as well.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But I'm saying Israel's occupation may not necessarily be against international law. The occupation itself may not be, at least.
Well, the actual occupation of Gaza, West Bank, and Julan Heights is actually illegal occupation currently recognized by the United Nations, though.
By what? Are you going to cite UN 242?
Yeah. Okay, but let me ask you this. So I want to get back to this General Assembly resolution. Do you understand that special council or special council? What is it? Special community? What is it? Special council?
The special committee for the partition of Palestine or
Yeah,
whatever.
the one the higher status, the 13 countries. So this higher status, the special committee. You understand that they actually reference General Assembly laws, like they reference the
Well,
General Assembly resolution in their actual laws.
they can reference it, but that doesn't make it legally binding.
But they're referencing it because that's the only legal term that like they have a standard upon. So when they're, for example, in General Assembly, in the special committee, they referenced. I think it was around 1940, 1950. They referenced, or at least, for example, the independence. Well, the independence of the when the Israel
Declaration of
declared
Independence. So you're going to say
Resolution 181.
reference 181. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple times. Then when and I've looked into it. Multiple special committees reference Resolution 242 and 181 multiple times, different ways. So I understand they are a higher legal guarantee or a higher legal like organization, but they use that lower resolutions, the resolutions that lower committee gives the General Assembly to create these special committee laws and resolutions.
But again, what are you saying that changes though?
I'm saying
that
they are
doesn't-
still legally binding because they're referenced in the special committee resolutions as well.
Just because they're referenced doesn't make them legally binding.
Well, why are they referenced then if they have
Also,
no
the
legal
way 181
standing?
was written it's a request. It's not legally binding with the way it's written even. So like
No, it's actually binding in the way it's written. For example, then Declaration of Independence of Israel, it's clear. They say we will follow the resolution that was committed on 1947, November 11. They literally say, and we will commit to following it. Like they will commit to staying at the 45%.
That was kind of contingent on the Arabs recognizing Israel, right? The Arabs didn't recognize Israel, so.
But even then, according to international declaration, they have to still abide by Resolution 181 because that's what they called out in their own declaration. So they cannot say we'll abide by Resolution 181 and then say, oh, all of Israel is 80% of Palestine, which doesn't align with Resolution 181. It aligns with Resolution 242, but that's not what's written on their international independence declaration.
Is the Declaration of Independence in Israel even binding within Israel? Like our declaration isn't legally binding.
What?
Is the Declaration of Independence even binding in Israel? Like the Declaration of Independence in the US is not legally binding.
Yeah, for example, they used that declaration to get into the United Nations. That's how they actually...
They declared independence, May 15th, 1948. They were only let into the UN, I think, a year later.
So 1948, yeah.
Israel joined UN. I'm pretty sure, yeah, Israel joined the UN May 11th, 1949, almost a full year later.
Yeah, but their declaration allowed them to go into a war that was just a defensive posture war because of that declaration. So we have to say that it was legally binding, at least for them to own the authority of the land and to go into war and conflict for that land. So we would have to say that declaration is the reason that 1948 and 1949 wars happened.
Well, you can say it's the reason the war happened, but it doesn't make it legally binding. And also, even if it was binding, the Arabs rejected it.
But that's how the Israelis knew what to defend.
Well, Israel just defended the territory that they had.
Sorry?
Israel just defended the territory that they had and also expanded their territory as well.
No worries, man. We'll have a million debates on this. No worries. I promise. I'm not gonna stop here. We can let's agree to disagree, I guess.
Okay.
Man, come on! How can it be legally non-binding? But it's literally the declaration of their independence. It makes no sense.
Just because somebody references something doesn't make it legally binding. Like,
then why are you referencing it if it has no legal standing? It has
because Israel was just acknowledging that it accepts the resolution, and then the Arabs didn't accept the resolution.
They commit to forcing that upon their own state. They commit to forcing the resolution. So they don't say we're going to commit to forcing resolution 242.
But isn't that kind of Israel actually does. Like, Israel likes Resolution 242 because Resolution 242 is kind of favorable to Israel. But that's why
By the way, Hamas also likes Resolution 242. They actually are okay with 1967 lines. They're actually okay with this.
Hamas?
Like, I've heard Hamas's new arguments are they don't even want to go back to 1947. They only want the 1967 lines.
I don't think that's Hamas's positions. That
That's
is
literally Hamas's stance. Is they're cool with gaining governance of their 1967 borders. I swear to God, they don't even want their 1947 stuff anymore. Look at it. I couldn't believe it. I was
Okay,
like,
so
why
this
the fuck
is
would you do
Article 20 of the Hamas Charter. Hamas believes that no part of the land of Palestine, this is the new charter, 2017, by the way, shall be compromised or conceded, irrespective of the causes, the circumstances, and the pressure, no matter how long the occupation lasts. Hamas rejects any alternative to the full and complete liberation of Palestine from the river to the sea. However, without compromising its so this is the part that you're going to say supports some accepting Israel. However, without compromising its rejection of the Zionist entity and without relinquishing any Palestinian rights, Hamas considers the establishment of a fully sovereign and independent Palestine state with Jerusalem as its capital along the lines of June 4, 1967, with the return of refugees and the displaced to their homes, from which they can be expelled, to be a formula of national consensus.
All right, just link to a link here. It says Hamas has unveiled new political program, softening its stance on Israel by accepting the idea of Palestinian state in territories occupied by Israel in the Six-Day War of 1967.
Yeah, I just quoted the one part of the charter that this is also just going to quote. The 2017 charter, in theory, it says it's a formula to be a national consensus on which the establishment of an independent Palestinian state could be made. But it also says Hamas believes that no part of the land of Palestine shall be compromised, no matter how long the occupation lasts. The real point of this was to allow Hamas to have a closer relationship with Fatah and like support Fatah's efforts to negotiate a two-state solution.
Yeah, they're trying anything. They're trying anything politically speaking to get any kind of international acceptance and public opinion towards their
side. And then also, you can read Article 19. There shall be no recognition of the legitimacy of the Zionist entity, whatever has befallen the land of Palestine in the terms of occupation, settlement building, devastation, or changes to its features or falsifications of facts is illegitimate. Rights never lapse. And then also in Article 2, Palestine, which extends from the River Jordan in the east to the Mediterranean in the west, from the Ras al Nakra in the north to al Rashra in the south, is an integral territorial unit. It is the land and the home of the Palestinian people. The expulsion and banishment of the Palestinian people from their land to the establishment of the Zionist entity therein does not annul the right of the Palestinian people to their entire land and do not entrench any rights therein for the upserving Zionist entity. Like, those are three pretty clear things.
So their fight is with the Zionists. They're not against the Israelis or the Jews.
The Zionist entity is how they refer to Israel.
Yeah. Look, if Israel, no, the problem is I'm pretty sure Hamas would accept a country called Israel as long as the Zionist regime is not running its political party. I actually believe that. I believe Hamas would accept a one-state solution, for example, that is called Israel.
Right. That's a one-state solution.
As long as Zionists don't rule it.
We're basically arguing over whether Hamas would accept a two-state solution. And it doesn't seem like Hamas would accept a permanent two-state solution.
They actually will accept a two-state solution. That's the argument. Okay, you're right. Maybe not permanently, but they will accept like an arms-ties agreement. They'll accept something and they'll fall back to their own borders. But right now, Hamas is losing in any way, any shape or form. So they actually cannot even negotiate. So even though they're dreaming of going back to 1967 lines, Israel won't give that to them. Like, they actually want to go back to the 1967 lines. They're not even saying we want 1947 anymore.
Well, I don't think Hamas wants the 47 lines as a permanent, or 67 lines as a permanent base. I think in the past that they said they would accept the agreement with Israel for a maximum of 15-year length period of time. They don't want a two-state solution permanently.
I agree with you. I don't think the Hamas actually want a two-state solution permanently, but they understand that this is what's gonna bring about the stop for the firing of weapons. And so what they're asking for is a stopping of arms for the next 5 years, and they will fall back and they will follow this charter to the T. And that's what they're asking for. They're asking for a new, a negotiation start and to drop the arms down. But Hamas is, but as you can see, Hamas is actually changing their position. Now you're right. Listen, they are going to look at Palestine, mandated Palestine is the original mandated Palestine from the river to the sea, including Transjordan maybe to them. But in the end, what they're looking for right now is a stopping of the war crimes. And they're actually open to change their charter. Like if you can provide them when they put their arms down, an amazing two-state solution, for example, they're forced to accept it. They're not going to not accept it.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree that Hamas obviously wants a ceasefire right now. But Hamas wants a ceasefire on their terms, which means a permanent ceasefire.
It's actually on your terms. Like, what else can they ask for? They're giving you the 1967 borders. You're right. Maybe it's temporary for 5 to 10 years, but they're still giving you your borders that you've been asking for. From then on, you can go to do different negotiations. But I'm not understanding like what. It's not even their terms. They actually, if it was their terms, you said it. You read in the charter.
Well,
it's from the river
Hamas's terms for a ceasefire right now is basically
is from the river to the sea.
What? Sorry.
That's what they really want. But they're willing to negotiate. They're willing to drop down to the 1967.
Well, so doesn't it seem like Israel's also willing to negotiate? They just have different terms for a ceasefire right now, because Hamas is insisting on a permanent ceasefire with the full withdrawal of Israeli forces, and then Israel is insisting on a temporary ceasefire without the full withdrawal of Israeli forces. That's the big disagreement between Israel and Hamas right now. That's why they can't reach a ceasefire agreement.
What Israel is doing is they're kicking out the Palestinians from their location, and they're already selling the Gaza land, for example, is being auctioned here in New York in Jewish auctions. Like all of Gaza is already getting auctioned off. So it's cool to say that you're posturing in order to end the war, but how can you say you're ending the war when you're selling the land that it's contested?
Wait, I'm saying, can you link me that? I have not heard that. They're
you
selling
hear
the
about
land.
This?
No, I didn't.
Hear about, there was a YouTube video. These guys were selling literally Gaza. Okay, I'll send it to you right now. I'm actually surprised. I'm pretty sure you've heard about this.
I mean, I was offline for all of last week.
Only Jews were allowed to buy it, and this is actually breaking New York penal codes because you're not allowed, basically of discrimination codes, equality, because you can't just discriminate and force and only allow Jews to buy property, in New York. So this is very hilarious. I'll bring you.
What are you saying? What are you saying they were selling? Are you saying they were selling land in Gaza, or are you saying they were?
Yeah, Gaza property in Gaza and West Bank. Only to Jews.
The West Bank kind of makes sense because Israel has Area C and they do shit there. But I haven't heard anything about them selling land in Gaza.
Yeah, and this is very recent. Israel allows vendor to sell. Wait. This is very recent. Yeah, Honigman walked out of a synagogue in New York's Long Island holding a goodie bag filled with information about purchasing land and homes in Israel and in illegal West Bank settlements. An Israeli real estate company had just run a seminar on how Jewish Americans can quickly and easily buy up property. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
This is in March this year. Yeah, it was a one-time real estate event. It had heavy police presence and a lot of pro-Palestinian protesters. You can find a lot of videos on it. It's hard for me to find videos on it right now. I was able to find them before, but now it seems like they're funneling them. I don't know. I can't find anything on YouTube.
Well, this says it's happening during the war in Gaza, but I don't think it says they were selling land in Gaza. It's just during the.
They're selling settlements in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, and here. Here.
No, that makes sense. I know Israel. I don't agree with the settlements, by the way. I don't think Israel's gonna be doing them, but
Yeah, they're selling Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and all settlements in the occupied West Bank.
Okay, that
Jerusalem,
makes
Tel
more
Aviv, and
sense. Yeah.
several other cities and communities, including Male Adumim, Neve Daniel, and Efrat, all settlements in the occupied West Bank.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
right now they're doing the West Bank, but once the war is over in Gaza, why would they not sell Gaza too?
Well, the big contention in Israel right now is actually over post-war plans in Gaza. So most people in the Israeli government don't want Israel to occupy Gaza. That's why I think Benny Gantz just resigned. He resigned over Israel not having a good post-war plan for Gaza. I think Yoav Gallant, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the defense minister, also called out Netanyahu specifically and said we must not have control over Gaza after the war ended. The U.S. position is that the reformed Palestinian Authority should have control over Gaza after the war ends.
Yeah, but you know that Israel is not going to allow any entity that's being. First of all, they don't allow elections to be happening in Gaza, and they don't actually accept any elections. Second of all, they're not going to allow only elected party. Yeah, they don't allow elections to happen. First of all,
what does that mean?
They don't.
How?
For example, when Hamas was elected, they didn't accept it. They said go re-elect somebody. They said no, we don't want to re-elect anyone. We want Hamas. The Palestinians said we don't want to re-elect anyone.
But prior to October 7th, Hamas could have held elections, right?
Are going to be accepted anymore.
Hamas could have held elections, but Hamas didn't want to.
But the problem is, even if Hamas holds election, they want Hamas. Like the Palestinian people want to keep.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
that's a problem. The Palestinian people want Hamas. What they did was
they're like, okay, all of this is illegitimate. All your votes are illegitimate, and we won't even accept Hamas as a illegitimate terroristic organization. So what we can confer from that and infer that when the war is over, they still won't allow the government to come back, the Hamas government to come back and to rule over this state. And you know for sure, because this is a national security threat, they're not going to allow this to just sit there and anybody walk around that area. No, they're just going to go ahead and occupy that whole area completely.
Well, I don't necessarily think that they might temporarily occupy it, but most people in Israel don't want Gaza to be permanently occupied, even if just because of demographic issues, because there's a lot of Palestinians living there right now, and Israel would have to absorb 2 million Palestinians into its border. But
yeah, no, listen, I agree with you to a certain extent, but we have to understand, we have to be clear that, I mean, no one is going to govern Gaza except Israel once this war is over. No one.
I mean, I guess the war could end with a ceasefire with Hamas that keeps Hamas in power.
Even then, there's no... The Palestinian Authority is going to have to come from the West Bank. There's nobody else that's going to govern. And maybe the people won't even allow the Palestinian Authority to come govern over them. So what are you going to do then? You're just going to force the people to accept them? This is the problem, man. The people elected the state or apparatus, and then you guys decline to accept them. So now your fight is with the people. It's not with the actual state apparatus at all.
Well, there needs to be a hardcore de-radicalization of a lot of the Palestinians in Gaza.
This is what happened in Luhansk. That's what happened in Luhansk, for example. Ukraine just started killing them instead of giving them what they want, which is their own independence. So this is the problem, man, is what you're going to see is you're going to see these people I doubt Israel is going to give up Gaza, and they're not going to let them get their own independence. So what they're just going to do is they're going to kill the opposition completely. And that's what they've been doing.
Okay, so you think we're going to see...
I'm surprised. You actually believe that there's going to be a Gaza after the war? Like, you actually believe Gaza is going to be a Gaza? Like, to me,
well, what do you mean I believe? I think it's relatively likely that Israel will occupy Gaza for some length of time to try to build a government there, but I don't think Israel wants control over Gaza. Again, even if just for demographic concerns.
I would not agree with you because, for example, we go to Israelis and talk about them. What is Israel? And ask them, what is Israel? They show you a picture that includes Gaza, West Bank, and the Julan Heights. So it's post-67 borders. It's a new picture we've never seen before. And that's the picture that Israel believes they own. You see what I mean? And that part of it is...
Obviously, there are some hardcore Zionists that believe that. But again, like...
No, that's the normal. That's the normal Israeli stance.
We've literally had resignations. Like, the defense minister in Israel literally told Netanyahu, Israel must not have civil control over Gaza after the war is ended.
Fine, man. They can say stuff all the time, but it just doesn't seem like they're not going to allow Hamas to go in. Even if the Palestinian Authority comes to govern, they're being captured completely by the Israeli Authority. and Israeli Internal Defense Ministry. So really, there's nothing. No, there's no real authority that's going to come and govern the Palestinian territory after the war. What's going to happen is Israel's just going to act like they're going to be there temporary, but they're never going to leave.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, this is what we need to do now, Nonfon. Man, when do you stream? Let's do a 30-minute convo every time you stream or something like that. Just something short.
I've been streaming at like 3 p.m. and then I'll go to like 12 a.m. or something.
Do you do daily? I do. I see you stream a long time. You know.
I try to do daily, but I'm kind of bad at doing it. But I try to, yeah.
All right, man. Man, you're growing, man. Your YouTube channel is growing. I think your Rumble is gonna explode. There's rarely anyone doing what you're doing on Rumble.
Yeah.
And
listen, Manar, your YouTube channel's been popping off too, man.
Not really. I got lucky. I get like 1,000 views on some dumb shit. I don't know what I even get views on. Like I get random shit.
I mean, yeah.
Like one video will get 50 views, the next one will get 1,200. I'm like, what?
Yeah. But you're content maxing, man, bro. I wish I could output as many videos as you. You like stream and then you immediately just upload like 5 things from the stream.
Yeah, I figured it out. Man, just set up the way you're streaming to kind of upload a video or at least 2 videos per day, and you'll be fine. You'll be happy.
Yeah.
Because then it takes too much time to make video. And then what you could do is you could do minor editing, but try to make it a setup. I'm slowly working on it. I'm trying to fix my transitioning and stuff, but at some point it's going to be very minor editing. It's just going to be from the stream. I just clipped it.
Oh yeah.
Threw it on
Well,
Rumble
I gotta spend time doing my fancy intros that I like to do that are just copies of Destiny's intros.
Yeah. I actually like those, bro. You're gonna explode. Keep doing those. Don't ever stop. That actually, I bet you that increases your watch time by at least 10%. I swear to God.
I think it does because people like will always stay for the intro at least.
Yeah, at least the intro. Yeah, they'll go through the intro, which is crazy because my fucking videos crash before the intro.
Some of mine do after the intro. Yeah.
Okay, see, that's amazing. That means if you can link another thing to the intro, I don't know, but you could do something about it. Or maybe when you're more famous and more popular, people will just stay with it.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, I need to do that. Do you actually edit that manually, or is there a program you guys do?
I edit it. I mean, I edit that manually.
You go find out whatever is the cool part and shove it in there, and then put a black.
There's got to be like some AI thing that'll do it for you, but I haven't found a good one.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, no, fine, man. Anytime, man. Man, please let me stop by and say hi to you anytime.
Oh yeah, don't worry. Anytime, Manar.
All right, my brother. Take care.
Take care.